I killed my fiancé's lover. Then I discovered she was killing my children. Adrian Vale built Chicago's underworld with blood and bullets. But the war he never saw coming wasn't in the streets. It was in his own home. When a terrified maid showed him what his perfect fiancée was really doing to his kids, everything he thought he knew shattered. Now he's got 72 hours to save them before it's too late. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The penthouse smelled like expensive whiskey and old money, but Adrian Vale couldn't shake the copper tang underneath it all. Blood. Always blood, even when you scrubbed your hands raw. 2:47 a.m. The city sprawled below him through floor-to-ceiling windows, Chicago's lights bleeding into the lake like an open wound. He'd built this empire one broken bone at a time, one shattered kneecap, one deal signed at gunpoint. 20 years of clawing his way up from running numbers in Bridgeport to owning half the South Side. And tonight, like every night for the past 6 months, he came home to Veronica. She'd be asleep by now. Beautiful, untouchable Veronica Hale, daughter of a federal prosecutor who'd probably roll over in his grave if he knew where his princess laid her head these days. Adrian had met her at some charity gala. He couldn't even remember which one. All those events blurred together, just opportunities to wash dirty money through clean causes. But Veronica had stood out. Ice blonde hair, sharp cheekbones, eyes that didn't flinch when he told her what he really did for a living. I already know, she'd said, sipping champagne that cost more than most people's rent. Everyone knows who Adrian Vale is. 6 months later, she'd moved in. 3 months after that, he'd put a ring on her finger. His late wife Gabrielle's ring, actually, the one thing he'd kept after the accident. Veronica had slipped it on without hesitation, and something about that had felt right. Like maybe he could have this. A real family again. Adrian loosened his tie, Italian silk he'd bought because Veronica said it made him look distinguished instead of dangerous. The cufflinks came next, platinum, engraved with his initials. They were sticky. He glanced down and saw the dark stains, almost black in the dim hallway light. Not his blood. Never his blood. The meeting at the warehouse had gone sideways. Tommy Rizzo, one of his street captains, had been skimming. Not much, maybe 10 grand over 3 months. But it wasn't about the money. It was about respect. About what happened when people thought they could steal from Adrian Vale and walk away. Tommy wouldn't be walking anywhere for a while. Adrian moved quietly through the penthouse, past the living room where Veronica had redecorated everything in shades of cream and gold. Gabrielle had liked color, reds and deep blues, paintings she'd picked up from local artists in Pilsen. Veronica had stripped all that away within a month. Too busy, she'd said. We need clean lines, sophistication. He'd let her. It was easier than fighting, and besides, what did he know about interior design? He knew how to read a balance sheet, how to spot a lie, how to make grown men piss themselves with a look. Throw pillows weren't in his skill set. The kitchen light was on. That was odd. Veronica never stayed up this late, and the kids, his kids, Max and Lily, were supposed to be asleep hours ago. School tomorrow. 7-year-old Lily had a spelling test she'd been nervous about all week. Max at 9 had soccer practice after school. Adrian turned the corner and stopped. Elena Cross stood at the kitchen island, her back to him. The maid. He'd hired her 4 months ago when Veronica complained about how much work the penthouse was. Elena was quiet, efficient, and visible in the way good help should be. Mid-30s maybe, dark hair always pulled back, clothes that screamed thrift store, but clean. She sent most of her paycheck back to family in Guatemala, he'd overheard Veronica mention once. Not that Veronica cared, she just wanted someone to clean up after her. Elena? She spun around and Adrian saw her face. Tears cut tracks through what looked like day-old makeup. Her hands shook, and her eyes held something Adrian recognized immediately because he'd seen it 1,000 times in his line of work. Terror. Mr. Vale? Her voice cracked. I thought you would be later. What are you doing up? Elena's mouth opened, closed. Her hands twisted together like she was trying to wring the words out. I need to show you something. It's 3 a.m. I know, and I'm sorry, but you need to see... She cut herself off, glancing toward the hallway that led to the bedrooms. Is Miss Hale asleep? Something cold slithered down Adrian's spine. In his business, you learn to trust your gut. Right now, his gut was screaming that something was very, very wrong. She should be. Why? Elena moved toward him, and Adrian instinctively tensed. Old habits. But she just pressed something into his hand, her phone, screen glowing with a paused video. "Watch this," she whispered. "Please. But not here. Your office. And be quiet." Adrian's office was down the hall, soundproofed because he took calls at all hours and didn't need Veronica or the kids overhearing business. Elena followed him in, closing the door so softly it barely clicked. He looked at the phone. The video showed what appeared to be the kids' playroom, the one Veronica had insisted on converting from Gabrielle's old studio. The timestamp read 3 days ago, 4:30 p.m., right after school. Adrian hit play. The image was slightly grainy. Elena must have hidden her phone somewhere, maybe on a shelf behind some toys. The angle showed most of the room. Lily sat at the small table they used for crafts, carefully coloring something. She looked so much like Gabrielle it sometimes hurt to look at her. Same dark curls, same serious expression when she concentrated. Veronica entered the frame. "Still working on that?" Her voice was light, almost playful. "You've been coloring for an hour, sweetheart." "I want it to be perfect," Lily said without looking up. "For Daddy." "Your father doesn't care about crayon drawings, Lily." "Yes, he does. He keeps them in his office." A pause, then Veronica moved closer. "Does he? I've never noticed." "In his desk, the bottom drawer. He thinks I don't know, but I saw him put one there last week." Adrian's chest tightened. He did keep them. Every single one. Lily drew him pictures of their family. Stick figures holding hands, the penthouse, sometimes their old house from before Gabrielle died. Max usually drew soccer balls or dinosaurs, but occasionally he'd add his own artwork to Lily's family portraits. Adrian had 17 of them in that drawer. On screen, Veronica crouched down next to Lily. Her face was perfectly composed, that soft smile she always wore around the kids. "That's very sweet. But you know what would make your daddy even happier?" "What?" "If you and your brother were just a little bit quieter in the mornings. He works so hard, and sometimes you two wake him up with all your running around." Lily's hand stilled on the crayon. "We try to be quiet." "I know you try, baby, but trying isn't the same as succeeding, is it?" Veronica's hand moved to Lily's hair, stroking it gently. Too gently. "Your father was telling me just yesterday how tired he is of the noise, how sometimes he wishes he could have peace in his own home." "He said that?" "He did. And do you know what else he said?" Veronica leaned in closer, her voice dropping to something almost tender. "He said, if you and Max can't learn to behave, maybe you should go live somewhere else, somewhere with other children who don't know how to be quiet." Adrian's hand clenched around the phone. He'd never said that, never even thought it. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Like an orphanage? Well, I don't know if I'd call it that exactly. But yes, somewhere your father doesn't have to hear you all the time." Veronica stood up, smoothing her skirt. "So maybe try harder tomorrow morning, okay? For Daddy." She walked out of frame. Lily sat frozen for a long moment, then crumpled over her drawing and started to cry. Silent, shaking sobs that made her whole body jerk. The video ended. Adrian stared at the black screen. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, drowning out everything else. When he finally looked up, Elena was watching him with those terrified eyes. "There are more," she said quietly. "So many more." "Show me." She took the phone back, fingers flying over the screen. "I started noticing things about 6 weeks ago. How the children would flinch when Miss Hale came into a room, how they stopped talking as much at dinner, how Max started wetting the bed again, even though he hasn't done that since he was 5. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried." Elena's voice shook. "3 times I tried to speak with you, Mr. Vale. But Miss Hale was always there, or you were in a hurry, or—" She cut herself off. "I was afraid. I'm not stupid. I know what you do. I know what happens to people who cause problems for men like you." Adrian wanted to argue, but she wasn't wrong. He'd built his reputation on making problems disappear. People talked. People died. Simple math. "So I started recording. Elena pulled up another video. This one is from 2 weeks ago. This time the footage showed Max's bedroom. Night vision, everything in shades of gray. Max lay in bed, clearly awake, staring at the ceiling. The door opened and Veronica stepped in, backlit by the hallway. "Still awake?" she asked. "Can't sleep," Max mumbled. Veronica sat on the edge of his bed. "Bad dreams again?" "I keep dreaming about Mom, about the accident." "Oh, sweetheart." Veronica's hand touched his forehead, pushing back his hair. "You know, your mother's accident wasn't really an accident." Adrian went very, very still. "What?" Max's voice was small, confused. "The brakes failed on her car, didn't they? That's what the police said. But brakes don't just fail, Max. Someone has to make them fail." "I don't understand." "Your father has a lot of enemies, bad people who want to hurt him. And sometimes, when they can't hurt him directly, they hurt the people he loves." Veronica's voice was gentle, almost soothing. "Your mother died because of your father's work, because he makes dangerous choices." "That's not true. Daddy said it was an accident, a malfunction." "Of course he did. He doesn't want you to know the truth. But I think you're old enough now, don't you? Old enough to understand that your father's business gets people killed, like your mother. And maybe, if you and Lily aren't very, very careful, it could happen to you too." Max started crying. Not the loud, dramatic crying of a child throwing a tantrum. The quiet, desperate crying of a kid whose world was falling apart. Veronica kissed his forehead. "Don't worry, baby. I'll keep you safe. I won't let your father's enemies hurt you, but you have to promise me you'll be good, okay? Promise me you'll do exactly what I say, when I say it. Can you do that?" "Yes," Max whispered. "Good boy." She stood up. "Now go to sleep. And remember, this is our secret. If you tell your father we talked about this, it will make him very angry, and we don't want that, do we?" "No. That's my smart boy." She left. Max buried his face in his pillow and sobbed. Adrian felt something break inside his chest, not his heart. His heart had calcified years ago, turned to scar tissue from watching good people get chewed up by a city that didn't care. But something else, something he'd thought was already dead. "When?" His voice came out strangled. "When did you record this?" "November 3rd, 2 weeks and 4 days ago." Elena pulled up a folder on her phone. "I have 37 videos total. Every time I could hide my phone and catch her alone with them. Sometimes it's just psychological, telling them they're stupid, that their father wishes they'd never been born, that Gabrielle would be ashamed of them. Other times," she trailed off. Adrian grabbed the phone and started scrolling. The titles of the videos made his blood freeze. Lily, locked in closet, 43 minutes. Max denied dinner, told he's getting fat. Both. Veronica describes their funeral in detail. Lily, hair pulling. Max, Veronica shows him photos of dead children, says this is what happens to bad kids. He opened one at random. Veronica was braiding Lily's hair, smiling into the mirror. Lily looked nervous. "Hold still, sweetheart. You want to look pretty, don't you?" "Yes, Miss Veronica." "What did I tell you to call me?" "I'm sorry." "Yes, Mommy." The word twisted like a knife. Veronica had been pushing that for months now, insisting the kids should call her Mommy because we're going to be a real family soon. Adrian had thought it was sweet, a sign she was committed to them. "That's better." Veronica pulled the braid tight, too tight. Lily winced but didn't make a sound, and tied it off. "You know, your real mother had beautiful hair too. Before the accident, I mean. After the accident, well, the fire burned most of it off. Did your father tell you that?" Lily's face went white. "There wasn't a fire. Daddy said, 'Your daddy lies to you, baby girl. He lies about a lot of things. The truth is, your mother burned alive in that car. They found her body charred so badly they had to identify her from dental records. And do you know what she was doing right before she died?" "Stop." Lily's voice was barely a whisper. "She was screaming your name, and Max's, screaming for her babies while the fire ate her alive." Lily's whole body started shaking. Veronica just kept braiding, her face serene. "But don't worry, I'm your mother now, and I'll make sure you never have to burn like she did." As long as you're a good girl. As long as you do exactly what I say. Adrian closed the video. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. Jesus Christ. I'm so sorry, Mr. Vale. Elena's voice cracked. I should have told you sooner. I should have done something, but I was afraid and I didn't know. Stop. Adrian held up a hand. His mind was racing, trying to process what he'd just seen, trying to reconcile the woman in those videos with the Veronica who kissed him goodbye every morning, who planned charity galas and society dinners, who slept beside him every night. How long? How long had this been going on? You said you noticed 6 weeks ago, he said slowly. But did it start then? Elena shook her head. I don't think so. I think it started much earlier, I just didn't see it. I work mostly days, Mr. Vale. I'm gone by 7 most nights. But the children, they've been different for months. Quieter, more frightened. I thought maybe they were still grieving their mother or adjusting to Miss Hale, but now I think, how long have I been blind? The question hung in the air. Elena didn't answer, which was answer enough. Adrian stood up and walked to the window. His city spread below him, all those lights hiding all those secrets. He thought he knew every dirty corner of Chicago. Every gang, every racket, every corrupt cop and paid-off politician. He'd built his empire by knowing things other people didn't, by seeing threats before they materialized. And he'd missed this. Right under his own roof. There's more, Elena said quietly. The videos they're bad, Mr. Vale. They're really bad. But there's something else. Adrian turned around. What? Elena pulled up her photos and showed him a picture of a pill bottle. The label read, Clonazepam, Veronica Hale, take as needed for anxiety. So, she has a prescription. Yes, but look at this. Elena swiped to the next photo. Same bottle, different angle. The label was partially peeled back, revealing another label underneath. I found this in her bathroom cabinet 3 days ago. I was cleaning and the label caught on my cloth. Adrian squinted at the image. The bottom label read Digoxin, Vale, Adrian, 0.25 milligrams daily. His heart medication. He'd been taking it for 2 years, ever since a routine physical showed some arrhythmia. Nothing serious, the doctor had said, just needed to keep it regulated. I don't understand. Why would my prescription be? Because it's not really yours. Elena swiped to another photo, this one showing the inside of the bottle. Instead of the small white pills Adrian took every morning with breakfast, these were larger and orange. I looked up both medications. Digoxin is for heart problems. Clonazepam is for anxiety. But if you give someone with a healthy heart too much digoxin, it kills them. Eventually. Or it makes them very sick first, confused, weak, and if someone was trying to make it look natural, like your heart condition was just getting worse. Adrian's breakfast for the past 6 months flashed through his mind. Veronica always made it, always insisted on it, actually. Said it was her way of taking care of him. Coffee, toast, eggs, and his pills, already laid out next to his orange juice. He'd thought it was love. Where are my real pills? I don't know. Maybe she threw them out. Maybe she's been giving you the digoxin all along and you just haven't taken enough to... Adrian was out the door before Elena finished the sentence. He moved down the hallway toward the master bedroom, past photos of him and Veronica at various events. Smiling, perfect, fake. His hand went to the door handle. It was locked. Veronica never locked the bedroom door. Adrian pulled out his keys, the penthouse master that opened every door in the place. His hands weren't shaking anymore. They were perfectly steady, the way they always got right before violence. The lock clicked. He pushed the door open. The bedroom was empty. Bed made, everything in its place. Veronica's side table held her usual collection of items. Hand cream, a book she was pretending to read, reading glasses she was too vain to wear in public, and a bottle of pills. Adrian picked it up. The label read, Melatonin, Natural Sleep Aid. He opened it. Inside were small white pills. His actual heart medication. She'd switched them, kept his real pills in a fake bottle and given him something else every morning. For 6 months. How much digoxin had he taken? How close had he come to a tragic heart attack that would leave Veronica a grieving widow with full access to his estate? The closet door opened. Adrian spun, hand instinctively going for the gun he kept in his waistband. But it was just Elena, white-faced and shaking. "Mr. Vale, I heard her. She's awake. She's coming." Footsteps in the hallway. Light, careful. Veronica's footsteps. Adrian looked around the bedroom, his bedroom, in his penthouse, in his city. Everything he'd built, everything he'd fought for. And this woman, this stranger wearing his dead wife's ring, had been destroying it from the inside while he slept beside her. "Get out," he told Elena. "Use the service stairs. Don't let her see you." "But go." Elena fled just as the bedroom door opened fully. Veronica stood in the doorway wearing a silk robe Adrian had bought her, her blonde hair slightly mussed from sleep. She looked perfect. She always looked perfect. "Adrian? I thought I heard voices." Her eyes went to the pill bottle in his hand. Something flickered across her face, too fast to read, but he caught it. "Is something wrong?" "Couldn't sleep," Adrian said. His voice came out normal, casual. Amazing how easy it was to lie when you'd been doing it your whole life. "Thought I'd take something to help." "You should have woken me. I would have made you warm milk." She moved toward him, and Adrian fought the urge to step back. "You look upset. Did something happen at your meeting?" Tommy Rizzo was skimming. "Oh no, did you have to—" She made a vague gesture. "Handle it?" "Yeah." Veronica's hand touched his chest, right over his heart, the heart she'd been trying to stop. "You work too hard. All this stress, it's not good for you. Not with your condition." "My condition?" "Your heart, baby. You know the doctor said you need to be careful. Take your medication. Reduce stress. Maybe delegate more instead of doing everything yourself." She was good. Really good. If he hadn't seen those videos, if he hadn't found the switched pills, he would have believed every word. Would have kissed her and gone back to bed and probably died in his sleep within a month. "You're right," Adrian said. "I should delegate more." Veronica smiled and kissed him. Her lips tasted like the vanilla lip balm she always wore. Same as always, same as the first time they'd kissed. How much of it had been real? Any of it? "Come to bed," she murmured against his mouth. "Let me help you relax." Adrian's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, grateful for the excuse to step back. A text from Marcus Chen, his head of security. "Warehouse cameras caught something. You need to see this. Now." "Work?" Veronica asked. "Always work. I need to make a call. Go back to sleep." "At 3:30 in the morning?" "At 3:30 in the morning." He kissed her forehead, the same way she'd kissed Max before devastating him. "I'll be in my office." Veronica hesitated, and Adrian saw her calculating, deciding whether to push or let it go. She let it go. "Don't work too late. You need rest." "I need rest," Adrian echoed. He watched her walk back to bed, slide under the covers, close her eyes, like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't been systematically torturing his children and poisoning him for months. Adrian left the bedroom and walked straight to his office. Elena was there, hovering near the door. "Is she—" "She's fine. She doesn't suspect anything." Adrian pulled out his phone and called Marcus. "What do you have?" "Boss, you're not going to like this." Marcus's voice was tight. "The warehouse cameras. I was reviewing footage from tonight's meeting, right? Standard protocol. But I scrubbed back a few hours, and I caught something." "What?" "Someone was there before your meeting, before Tommy even showed up. Someone who had no business being there." Adrian's stomach dropped. "Who?" "James Reeves." The room tilted. James Reeves, his lieutenant, his right hand for the past 8 years, the man he trusted with his life. "You're sure?" Positive ID. He was there for about 40 minutes, 11 to 11:40. Right around when Tommy was supposed to arrive early to set up. Except Tommy didn't show until midnight, did he? No, Tommy had been late. Said he got caught in traffic. What was Reeves doing? Talking to Tommy. I pulled the audio. "Boss, they were talking about you, about your declining health, about what happens to the business when you're gone." Adrian sat down hard. "Send me the file." "Already done." The email came through. Adrian put it on speaker. Marcus was right. The audio was clear. James Reeves' smooth, educated voice filled the office. "Accelerating. Veronica says he's getting worse every day. Confusion, fatigue, tremors. The digoxin is working exactly like she said it would." Tommy's rougher voice. "How long?" month, maybe 2. She's increasing the dosage gradually so it looks natural, heart failure brought on by stress and poor health. Very tragic. Very unavoidable. And then? And then Veronica inherits everything. His estate, his liquid assets, controlling interest in the front businesses. She'll need help managing it all, of course. Someone with experience in the organization. Someone the crews will respect. Someone like you. Someone like me. And once we're married, give it a year, maybe 18 months for appearances, it all becomes community property. Adrian's empire, split 50-50 between me and Veronica. What about the kids? A pause. Long enough that Adrian's hand clenched into a fist. What about them? James said finally. They're 7 and 9. Tragic if something happened. Another accident, maybe. Poor kids never recovered from losing their mother. The grief just became too much. Jesus, James. Don't go soft on me now, Tommy. You wanted in on this. You're in. That means all the way. The kids are a loose end. Loose ends get tied up. That's how this business works. I know, they're kids, man. They're obstacles. There's a difference. The recording ended. Adrian sat in silence, his mind working through the implications. James and Veronica, working together. Planning to kill him, kill his children, and take everything he'd built. How long had this been going on? When had it started? When had James met Veronica? Adrian pulled up his calendar, scrolling back. 6 months ago. The charity gala where he'd first seen Veronica. He remembered now, James had been the one to suggest going. Had said it would be good for Adrian to be seen doing legitimate philanthropy, good for their public image. James had introduced him to Veronica. Oh, you'll love her, James had said. Prosecutor's daughter, squeaky clean background, perfect arm candy. And between you and me, I think she's looking for excitement, the kind of excitement a man like you can provide. Adrian had thought James was being a wingman, helping him move on from Gabrielle's death, being a good friend. Instead, James had been setting him up, finding someone who could get close to him, close to his money, close to his kids, someone willing to do whatever it took. The question was, had Veronica been in on it from the start, or had James recruited her later? Adrian pulled up another file on his computer. Background check on Veronica Hale, the one he'd ordered before proposing. It had come back clean. It had come, father deceased, the federal prosecutor, mother living in Florida, no siblings, no criminal record, no red flags. But who had done the background check? Adrian scrolled to the bottom of the report. Signature, James Reeves. Of course. Of course James had done it, because James handled all the sensitive work, all the things that required discretion. Adrian had trusted him completely. Stupid. So incredibly stupid. His phone rang. Marcus. Boss, there's more. I kept digging after I sent you that file. Cross-referenced James's movements over the past year. And? He's been meeting with Veronica regularly, like really regularly, every Wednesday afternoon at the same hotel downtown, the Whitmore. They check in separately, but they're in the same room. Room 1247, always the same room. How long? 8 months, since before you even met her. So Veronica had been the plan from the beginning. Find a woman Adrian would fall for, get her into his life, into his home, into his bed, and then destroy him from the inside out. It was almost elegant. If it wasn't happening to him, Adrian might have admired it. Marcus, I need you to do something for me, quietly. Anything, boss. I need a full audit of the books. Everything James has had access to, every account, every transaction. And I need you to check on Gabrielle's accident. The police report, the mechanic who examined the car, everything. Silence on the other end. Then, boss, Gabrielle died 2 years ago. Why would... Just do it. And Marcus, don't tell anyone, not James, not Tommy, not anyone in the crew. You report directly to me. Understood? Understood. Adrian hung up and looked at Elena, who'd been standing frozen by the door this entire time. How much did you hear? All of it. Her voice shook. Mr. Vale, if they find out I recorded those videos, if they know I told you, they won't. You can't promise that. She was right. He couldn't. If James and Veronica figured out that Adrian knew, Elena would be the first person they'd suspect. A maid overhears something, tells the boss, ends up dead. Tale as old as time in his world. Pack a bag, Adrian said. Small, nothing suspicious. You're going to take a vacation, paid vacation, tonight. I can't just leave, I have to. Elena. Adrian's voice went hard. Listen to me very carefully. You've been brave, incredibly brave. You saved my children's lives, but now you need to save your own. I can protect you, but not if you're here. Pack a bag, use cash. Don't tell anyone where you're going. I'll have Marcus arrange a safe house. But the children, I'll handle the children. I'll handle all of this. But I need you alive to testify when the time comes. Can you do that? Elena nodded slowly. My phone, the videos, send them to this email address. Then destroy the phone. Not factory reset. Physically destroy it. Smash it, burn it, I don't care. But make sure no one can recover those files from the device. Understood? Yes. Good. Now go. Elena FUD. Adrian sat alone in his office, surrounded by the trappings of his success. Expensive furniture, expensive art, expensive everything. He'd thought this penthouse was a fortress. Turns out it was a cage. And he'd walked into it willingly. His computer pinged. Elena's email, subject line, evidence. 37 video files, all neatly labeled with dates and descriptions. Adrian downloaded them to an encrypted hard drive and backed them up to 3 different secure servers. Then he pulled up the security feed for the penthouse. Multiple cameras, all of them carefully hidden. Standard procedure. He'd installed them years ago to make sure staff weren't stealing, to keep an eye on things when he wasn't home. He'd never thought to watch what happened in his own house. Adrian scrolled back through the footage. Days, weeks, months. He watched Veronica with his children, watched her smile and laugh and play the perfect stepmother whenever he was around. Watched her transform the second he left, her face going cold, her voice turning sharp. He watched her hurt them. Not just psychologically, there were physical things too. Nothing that would leave obvious marks. Veronica was too smart for that. But he saw her pinch Lily's arm hard enough to make her cry. Saw her yank Max by the hair. Saw her lock them in their rooms for hours without food or water. All while Adrian was at work, building his empire, protecting his territory, completely blind to what was happening in his own home. The rage that filled him was cold, precise. The kind of rage that didn't make you stupid, that didn't make you sloppy. The kind of rage that made you dangerous. Adrian had built his reputation on controlled violence, on knowing exactly how much pressure to apply and where. Breaking someone without killing them was an art form, and he'd mastered it. But this was different. This wasn't business. This was personal in a way nothing had been since Gabrielle died. Gabrielle. Adrian pulled up the file on her accident. Traffic collision, the report said. Her car had gone off the road on Lakeshore Drive, hit a barrier, flipped 3 times. Brake failure, the mechanic had determined. Faulty manufacturing, probably. These things happened. Except they didn't. Not with a car that had been serviced 2 weeks before. Not with brakes that had been working perfectly. Adrian dialed another number. Danny Cortez answered on the first ring, voice groggy. Boss, it's 4 a.m. I need information. Gabrielle's car, the one from the accident. Where is it now? Scrapyard, probably. Why? Which scrapyard? I don't know, man. That was 2 years ago. The insurance company probably... Find out. I don't care if you have to wake up every insurance adjuster in Illinois. Find out where that car is, and if it still exists, I want it brought to a private garage. One we own, and I want it examined by a mechanic we trust. Someone who won't lie to me. Boss, what's going on? Just do it, Danny. Adrian hung up before Danny could ask more questions. He pulled up the police report from Gabrielle's accident again, reading through it more carefully this time. The responding officer had been Patrick Donnelly. Adrian knew Donnelly, had him on the payroll for 5 years now. Good cop, as far as corrupt cops went. Reliable, discreet, not too greedy. The mechanic who'd examined the car, Rodriguez Auto Body, also on Adrian's payroll, though less directly. They handled disposal of vehicles that needed to disappear. The insurance adjuster, Pinnacle Insurance Group. Not on his payroll, but connected to James Reeves's cousin. Every single person involved in investigating Gabrielle's death had been connected to Adrian's organization, and James had overseen the entire investigation, had handled all the details while Adrian grieved, had handled it or had orchestrated it. The bedroom door opened. Adrian quickly closed all the files and pulled up a random spreadsheet, some legitimate business report. Footsteps behind him. "You're still working," Veronica said. She was fully dressed now, jeans, a cashmere sweater, her hair pulled back. "It's almost 5. Have you slept at all?" "Couldn't," Adrian gestured at the screen. "Problem with the River North property, zoning issues." Veronica moved behind his chair, her hands coming to rest on his shoulders. She started massaging them, her thumbs working at the knots in his muscles. It felt good. That was the worst part. Even now, knowing what she was, what she'd done, her touch still felt good. "You're so tense," she murmured. "This job is killing you, Adrian. Maybe it's time to think about stepping back, letting other people handle the day-to-day operations while you focus on the big picture." People like James, she meant. People she could control. "Maybe," Adrian said noncommittally. "The kids miss you, you know. You've been working such long hours lately. They barely see you." The kids she'd been torturing, the kids she and James were planning to kill. Adrian's hands clenched beneath the desk, but his voice stayed calm. "I know. I'll try to be home for dinner more." "That would be wonderful. They love you so much. We all do." Veronica kissed the top of his head and left. Adrian sat very still, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway. Then he pulled out his phone and texted Marcus. "I need a team. 3 men you'd trust with your life. Not James's people. Not anyone close to James. Can you get them without raising suspicions?" Marcus's reply came fast. "Already done. We meeting?" "My warehouse, the one on Ashland. 6 a.m. See you there." Adrian stood and walked to the window. Dawn was starting to break over the city, pink and gold bleeding across the sky. It looked beautiful, peaceful. It was a lie, just like everything else. He thought about Max and Lily sleeping in their beds down the hall. Dreaming, maybe. Nightmares, probably. After everything Veronica had put in their heads. They were all he had left of Gabrielle. All he had left that was good and pure in a life built on blood and dirt. And someone had tried to take them from him. Was still trying. Adrian pressed his hand against the glass. Below him, Chicago woke up. Traffic started flowing, lights turned on in windows. People began their days. Normal people with normal problems. He'd never been normal. Never wanted to be. But he thought he could have something approaching it. A family. A home, something beyond the violence and the power games. Stupid. He'd been so stupid, but he wasn't stupid anymore. Adrian left his office and walked down the hall to the kids' rooms. Max's door first. He pushed it open quietly and looked inside. Max was curled up in bed, his Spider-Man sheets tangled around him. He looked so small, 9 years old and already carrying trauma that would take years to unpack, if they got the chance to unpack it. Adrian moved to Lily's room next. She slept on her stomach, her dark curls spread across the pillow. Her nightlight cast shadows on the walls. Butterflies, her favorite. Gabrielle had bought her that nightlight. How many nights had Lily cried herself to sleep while Adrian was none the wiser? How many times had she needed him and he hadn't been there? No more. Adrian closed her door softly and headed back to his bedroom. Veronica was in bed, scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. "Finished with work?" "For now." Adrian started getting undressed. "I'm going out at 6, meeting with Marcus about the Tommy situation." "So early?" "The earlier the better. Need to make sure word gets out about what happens when people steal from me." He climbed into bed, careful to maintain the right distance. Close enough to seem normal, far enough to avoid touching her. Veronica snuggled against him anyway, her head on his chest. "You're a good man, Adrian. I know you have to do hard things sometimes, but it's only because you're protecting what's yours. That's what a real man does. He protects his family. His family. The family she was destroying." "Yeah," Adrian said into the darkness. "He does." Veronica fell asleep within minutes, her breathing evening out. Adrian lay awake, staring at the ceiling, planning. He had 72 hours, maybe less. The second James or Veronica suspected he knew, they'd accelerate. Maybe kill him outright instead of waiting for the poison to work. Definitely go after Elena if they found out she'd talked. Possibly hurt the kids just to send a message. So Adrian had to move first, had to move fast, and had to make sure that when he moved, It was decisive. Total. Complete. No half measures. Not with his children's lives on the line. At 5:45, Adrian slid out of bed. Veronica didn't stir. He dressed in the closet, jeans, a plain black shirt, boots, working clothes. He strapped a gun to his ankle, another at his back, a knife in his boot. Old habits. Marcus was waiting at the warehouse when Adrian arrived. 3 other men stood with him: Luis Vargas, Chen II, Dmitry Volkov, head of their Eastern European operations, and surprisingly, Tommy Rizzo, his arm in a sling and his face a mass of bruises from their earlier conversation. "Tommy," Adrian said, "didn't expect to see you here." Tommy looked nervous. "Good. He should be." "Marcus said you needed people you could trust. People who weren't connected to James. I figured," he gestured helplessly, "I figured I owed you for the skimming. I was wrong, boss. I was stupid, and I was wrong, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you let me." Adrian studied him. Tommy was small-time, a street soldier who'd gotten greedy, but he wasn't a traitor. Not like James. "You knew James was planning something," Adrian said. It wasn't a question. Tommy's face went white. "Boss, I swear, I didn't know the details. He approached me last week, said there might be changes coming in the organization, said I'd be smart to position myself on the right side. I told him I was already on the right side, yours. That's when he started talking about your health, about succession planning. I didn't know he meant, you didn't know he was trying to kill me." "No. Jesus, no. If I'd known that, you would have told me." "Yes." Tommy looked desperate. "Boss, I'm a lot of things. I'm a thief, yeah. I'm greedy, yeah. But I'm not a traitor. He's talking about taking everything. Your business, your money, He cut himself off. "My what?" Tommy glanced at the others, then back to Adrian. "Your kids, boss. He said something about them being a problem that would need to be solved. I thought he meant sending them away, boarding school or something. But after Marcus told me what else was going on, you realized he meant killing them." "Yeah." Adrian nodded slowly. "Okay, you're in. But Tommy, understand this. You fuck me again, I won't just break your arm. I'll break every bone in your body and make sure you live through it. Clear?" "Crystal." "Good." Adrian turned to the group. "Here's the situation. James Reeves and my fiancée, Veronica Hale, are working together. They've been poisoning me for 6 months. They've been psychologically and physically abusing my children. They're planning to kill me, kill my kids, and take over the organization, and I have evidence of all of it." He pulled out a tablet and played them some of Elena's videos. Watched their faces change as they realized what they were seeing. Luis crossed himself. Dimitri's jaw clenched. Tommy looked like he might throw up. When the videos ended, Marcus spoke first. "What do you need, boss?" "A plan. A good one. They can't know I'm on to them. The second they suspect, they'll accelerate or run. Either way, my kids are in danger." "We could grab them both," Dimitri suggested. "Take them somewhere quiet. Make them disappear." "No." Adrian shook his head. "That's too easy. And it leaves loose ends. James has been embezzling. I'm sure of it. He probably has money stashed offshore. Contingency plans if things go south. We grab him. We never find out how deep this goes. Who else is involved? What other damage he's done." "So we let them think they're winning," Marcus said slowly. "We play along. Let them make their move." "Exactly. But we need to control when and where that move happens. Somewhere we have the advantage. Somewhere the kids are safe." "What about the house?" Luis asked. "The penthouse is your territory. It's also full of civilian staff. The cleaning crew, the doormen, the concierge. Too many witnesses, too many complications, and Veronica's comfortable there. She knows every inch of that space." "So we bring her somewhere else," Tommy said. "Somewhere she thinks is safe, but isn't." Adrian thought about it. The Lake Geneva house. They all knew it. A massive estate 2 hours north, technically in Wisconsin. Adrian had bought it years ago as a weekend retreat. Private beach, gated property, staff quarters separate from the main house. He'd taken the kids there a few times, but not often. It reminded him too much of trips with Gabrielle. "It's isolated," Marcus said. "No neighbors for half a mile in any direction." And Veronica's been pushing me to go there, Adrian added. Says the kids need fresh air, nature, a break from the city. He hadn't understood why at the time. Now he did. Isolated location, far from hospitals, far from witnesses. The perfect place for an accident. So we go, Dmitri said. This weekend. Make it seem like your idea. Get everyone in one place. And then? Tommy asked. Adrian smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. And then we end this. They spent the next hour hammering out details. Marcus would position men around the property, hidden but ready. Luis would handle communications, cell phone jammers to make sure no one could call for help once things started. Dmitri would coordinate with their law enforcement contacts, make sure no one responded to any 911 calls from the area for a 12-hour window. Tommy would be inside the house, playing his role as a low-level soldier, ready to act when things went sideways. It was risky. 1,000 things could go wrong. But Adrian had been playing high-stakes games his entire life. This was just another roll of the dice, except this time his children were the pot. At 8 a.m., Adrian drove back to the penthouse. He stopped at a coffee shop on the way, bought Veronica her favorite latte, picked up fresh pastries. The perfect doting fiancée. She was in the kitchen when he arrived, making breakfast. The kids sat at the table, quiet and subdued. Max picked at his cereal. Lily stared at her orange juice like it might bite her. Morning, Adrian said, forcing cheerfulness into his voice. He kissed Veronica's cheek, ruffled Max's hair, squeezed Lily's shoulder. Normal. Everything was normal. You're back early, Veronica said. I thought the meeting would take longer. Wrapped up quicker than expected. Tommy understands the situation now. He handed her the latte. Peace offering for leaving so early. You're sweet. She sipped it and smiled. Perfect, as always. Adrian sat down at the table. The kids didn't look at him. Max especially seemed determined to study his cereal like it held the secrets of the universe. Hey, Adrian said softly. Look at me. Max's eyes came up reluctantly. They were Gabrielle's eyes, dark brown, expressive. Right now they looked scared. I was thinking, Adrian continued, we should go to the lake house this weekend. Get out of the city for a few days. Sound good? Lily's spoon clattered into her bowl. Veronica turned around fast. The lake house? Really? Why not? You've been saying the kids need fresh air, and I could use the break. We could make it a family trip. Leave Friday, come back Monday. He watched Veronica's face, saw the calculation behind her eyes, saw her weigh the opportunity against the risk. An isolated house far from the city. 4 days where anything could happen. I think that's a wonderful idea, she said finally. Don't you think so, kids? Max and Lily nodded, but they looked terrified. They thought this was another punishment, another way for Veronica to hurt them where no one would see. Adrian's heart broke a little more. Great. It's settled. He pulled out his phone and pretended to check his calendar. I'll have Marcus arrange security, just like coverage. I want this to be a real vacation. Do we need security at a lake house? Veronica asked. Force of habit. Besides, better safe than sorry. He stood up. I've got calls to make. You guys finish breakfast. Adrian kissed Veronica again, waved to the kids, and headed to his office. Once inside with the door closed, he pulled up his secure line and called Marcus. It's on. Friday to Monday. Lake Geneva House. I'll get the team in position Thursday night. They'll be ghosts. She won't even know they're there. And Elena? Safe house in Michigan. Untraceable. I've got a guy watching her 24/7. Good. Adrian paused. Marcus, if this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, if I don't make it, you get the kids out. You take them somewhere safe, somewhere even James can't find them, and you make sure he pays for this. Him and Veronica both. Promise me. I promise, boss, but it's not going to come to that. Promise me anyway. I promise. Adrian hung up and sat in silence. 3 days. He had 3 days to hold this together. 3 days to pretend everything was fine. 3 days to plan the destruction of 2 people he'd trusted completely. Outside his office, he heard Veronica laughing with the kids. Fake laughter. Performance laughter. He wondered if she'd ever laughed genuinely around him, or if it had all been an act from day one. Probably an act. Sociopaths were good at that. His computer pinged. Email from Danny Cortez. Found the car. It's in a scrapyard in Gary, Indiana. Mostly crushed, but the brake system is intact. Getting it moved to our garage now. Should have it there by noon. Adrian wrote back, good. Have Rodriguez look at it personally. Tell him I want to know if the brakes failed naturally or if someone helped them along. And Danny, tell him if he lies to me, I'll know. And he won't like what happens next. Understood. The next 3 days passed in a nightmare of normalcy. Adrian went to work, had meetings, settled disputes, collected money, all the usual business. He came home to family dinners where Veronica played the perfect mother and his kids barely spoke. He slept next to a woman who was slowly killing him, who'd been hurting his children, and he smiled through all of it. Wednesday night, Rodriguez called. Boss, I looked at the car, the brakes. Tell me. They didn't fail, boss. Someone cut the brake line. Not all the way. That would have been too obvious. Just enough that it would fail under pressure. Like if you were driving fast, hit the brakes hard, the line would rupture. Exactly what happened on Lakeshore Drive that night. Adrian closed his eyes. You're sure? Positive. Whoever did it knew what they were doing. Professional job. Thanks, Rodriguez. Boss, I'm sorry. About your wife. She was a good woman. Yeah, Adrian said. She was. He hung up and sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel. Gabrielle hadn't died in an accident. She'd been murdered. And James had been the one to handle the investigation, to make sure everyone found what they were supposed to find, to close the case before anyone could ask the right questions. James had killed Gabrielle. Maybe not personally. James was too smart to get his own hands dirty, but he'd ordered it, arranged it, made it happen. And then he'd found Veronica and convinced her to help him finish what he started. Finish Adrian, finish the kids, take everything. The rage Adrian felt was beyond anything he'd ever experienced. He'd killed men for less, had done worse than kill them. But this was different. This was his wife, his children, his life. This was war. Thursday night, Marcus called. We're in position. 6 men around the perimeter hidden in the woods, cameras on every approach. Jammers ready to activate on your signal. Luis has the police scanner locked down. Nothing's getting through for a 12-hour radius. We're good to go. And James? He thinks you're taking a family vacation. Told him you needed space to clear your head. Think about the business. He bought it. Good. Keep him thinking that. I want him off balance when this goes down. When do you want to move? Adrian looked at the calendar. Saturday night. Let them settle in. Let them think everything's going according to plan. Then we flip the board. Saturday night, Marcus confirmed. We'll be ready. Friday morning, they left for Lake Geneva. Adrian drove, Veronica in the passenger seat, kids in the back. Max stared out the window. Lily clutched a stuffed rabbit, one of the few toys from before Gabrielle died. This is going to be so good for us, Veronica said, reaching over to squeeze Adrian's hand. Quality family time. No distractions. Just us. Just us, Adrian agreed. In the rearview mirror, he caught Lily's eyes. She looked absolutely terrified. 2 more days, he wanted to tell her. Just 2 more days, and this nightmare ends. I promise. But he couldn't say that. Couldn't give anything away, so he just gave her a small smile and hoped she understood. The lake house looked exactly as Adrian remembered. Sprawling, beautiful, isolated. The kind of place people dreamed of owning. The kind of place where you could scream and no one would hear you. It's gorgeous, Veronica breathed. Adrian, I'd forgotten how gorgeous this place is. They'd only been here once before, shortly after she'd moved in. A weekend trip, all smiles and romance. Adrian wondered now if she'd been cataloging it even then, planning how to use it. The kids ran inside, eager to get away from Veronica. Adrian watched them go, then grabbed the bags from the car. Let me help, Veronica said. I've got it. You go relax, pour yourself some wine. Enjoy the view. She kissed him. You're too good to me. Not yet, Adrian thought. But I will be. I'll be exactly as good to you as you deserve. That night, they had dinner on the deck. Steaks, vegetables, a nice wine. Veronica had cooked, which meant Adrian didn't eat much. Just pushed food around his plate and pretended to drink. The kids ate in silence. After dinner, Veronica suggested s'mores by the fire pit. The kids perked up at that. Even with everything going on, they were still kids, and s'mores were s'mores. Adrian watched them roast marshmallows, watched Veronica play the perfect stepmother, and plotted her destruction with every breath. Tomorrow. Tomorrow this would all be over, one way or another. Adrian didn't sleep that night. He lay beside Veronica, listening to her breathe, watching the numbers on the clock change. Every hour that passed was an hour closer to the reckoning he'd been planning since Elena had shown him those videos. At 5 a.m., he gave up on sleep and went downstairs. The kitchen was dark, the city still mostly asleep beyond the windows. He made coffee and sat at the counter, thinking through every angle, every possible way this could go wrong. His phone buzzed. Marcus? Rodriguez confirmed it. Brake line was cut. Professional job. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. Adrian stared at the message. There it was. Confirmation that Gabrielle's death hadn't been an accident, that someone had murdered her while Adrian was busy building his empire, thinking his family was safe. He typed back, James? Has to be. He handled the whole investigation, made sure nobody looked too close. Adrian set down the phone. 2 years. Gabrielle had been dead for 2 years, and he'd been sleeping next to one of her killers for the past 6 months. Had been planning to marry her. The rage that filled him was cold and sharp. He wanted to go upstairs right now, wrap his hands around Veronica's throat, and squeeze until she stopped breathing. Wanted to watch the life drain from her eyes the way he'd watched it drain from too many others. But he couldn't. Not yet. Not until he knew everything. Not until he'd secured the kids and made sure there were no loose ends that could come back and hurt them. Footsteps on the stairs. Adrian looked up to see Max standing in the doorway, still in his pajamas. You're up early? Adrian said. Couldn't sleep. Max moved closer, hesitant. Dad, are we really in danger, like you said yesterday? Adrian wanted to lie. Wanted to tell his son everything was fine, that there was nothing to worry about. But Max deserved better than lies. Yeah, buddy, we are. But not for much longer. Because of Miss Veronica? Partly. And because of some business stuff. But I'm handling it. Max sat down at the counter. In the dim light, he looked younger than 9. Looked like he had when Gabrielle was alive. And the worst thing he had to worry about was whether he'd made the soccer team. I heard you and Lily talking last night, Max said quietly. After we went to bed, you told her everything was going to be okay. Did you mean it? I meant it. But what if it's not? What if something happens to you? Nothing's going to happen to me. You can't know that. You couldn't know about Mom, and she still... Max's voice cracked. She still died. Adrian pulled his son into a hug. Max was too old for this, really. Too tough. But he came anyway, wrapping his arms around Adrian's waist and holding tight. Listen to me, Adrian said. I know I can't control everything. I know bad things happen even when we try to prevent them. But I'm not going to let anyone hurt you or your sister. I promise you that. How? By being smarter than they are. By moving first. By doing whatever it takes. Max pulled back. Even if it's bad? Even if you have to do something really bad? Adrian met his son's eyes. Even then. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Max said, I don't want you to be a bad person, Dad. I'm already a bad person, Max. I've been a bad person for a long time. But I'm trying to be a good father. That's all I can do. Are you, though? A bad person? Yeah, I am. But you help people sometimes. You give money to the neighborhood. You make sure people have jobs. I also hurt people. A lot of people. I've done things that... Adrian cut himself off. Max didn't need to know the details. I've done things I'm not proud of. But you're protecting us now. That makes you good. It makes me your father. That's different from good. Max thought about this. Okay, but Dad, even if you're bad, I'm glad you're my dad. Something in Adrian's chest cracked. He pulled Max close again, pressing his face into his son's hair. I'm glad too, buddy. I'm glad too. They stayed like that until the sun started to rise. Then Lily came downstairs, rubbing her eyes, asking why everyone was up so early. Adrian made them breakfast, eggs and toast, nothing fancy, and tried to act normal. Veronica appeared at 7, perfectly put together despite the early hour. She kissed Adrian's cheek and smiled at the kids. Well, isn't this nice? The whole family up and having breakfast together. Adrian forced himself to smile back. Couldn't sleep. Figured I'd make something for everyone. That's sweet. But you need rest, Adrian, especially with your heart condition. She pulled a pill bottle from her robe pocket, the fake melatonin bottle with his real medication inside. Did you take your pill this morning? Not yet. Here. She shook one out and handed it to him with a glass of water. You can't forget. The doctor said it's crucial. Adrian took the pill and palmed it while pretending to swallow. Thanks. What would I do without you? Hopefully you'll never have to find out. She poured herself coffee and sat down. So, the lake house this weekend. I was thinking we could leave Friday morning. Beat the traffic. Friday afternoon is better. I've got meetings in the morning I can't miss. What kind of meetings? Business stuff. Boring. Veronica's eyes narrowed slightly. You've been having a lot of meetings lately. Tommy's situation created some complications. I need to make sure everyone understands the message. What message is that? That stealing from me is a bad idea. Adrian sipped his coffee. Same message I always send. Veronica studied him for a moment, and Adrian wondered what she saw. Did she suspect? Did she know that he knew? But then she smiled, and the moment passed. Well, just don't work too hard. I want you relaxed and healthy for our trip. I'll do my best. The kids finished eating and went upstairs to get ready for school. Adrian waited until they were gone, then excused himself to his office. He had calls to make. First, Danny Cortez. Tell me you found something. The car's at my garage. Rodriguez is going over it now. Says he'll have a full report by noon. I need it by 10. Boss, that's less than 3 hours. Then he better work fast. Adrian hung up and dialed Marcus. Where are we with the financial audit? About halfway through. James has his hands in everything, just like we thought. But there's something weird. What? Money moving offshore. A lot of money. Started about 3 years ago, right after Gabrielle died. Small amounts at first, then bigger. Total so far is around 40 million. Adrian's grip tightened on the phone. James was stealing $40 million? Looks like it. And get this, some of it's going to accounts in Veronica's name. Not her personal accounts, shell companies, but they trace back to her. How long has that been happening? Since she came into the picture. Since before you met her, actually. So they'd been planning this for years. Setting everything up, moving money, positioning themselves. And Adrian had been too blind to see it. Keep digging. I want to know every dollar, every account, every transaction. You got it, boss. Adrian's next call was to a lawyer. Not one of his usual guys. They were all compromised, probably taking money from James. He needed someone clean. Sarah Chen, a crisp voice answered. Ms. Chen, my name is Adrian Vale. I need to speak with you about a sensitive matter. There was a pause. Sarah Chen knew who Adrian Vale was. Everyone in Chicago knew. Mr. Vale, I don't typically represent. I'm not looking for representation. I'm looking for advice about turning state's evidence. Another pause, longer this time. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Can you meet me? Today? Somewhere private? I have an opening at 2. Make it 11. My warehouse on Ashland. Come alone. Mr. Vale, I'm not comfortable. You'll be safe. I give you my word. And Ms. Chen, if you're recording this conversation, don't. What I'm about to do is going to blow up Chicago's entire organized crime infrastructure. You'll want to be the one who gets credit for it. He could hear her breathing on the other end, weighing the risk against the opportunity. 11 o'clock, she said finally. And Mr. Vale? I will have federal agents on standby. If anything happens to me, nothing will happen to you. You have my word. Adrian hung up and checked the time. 3 hours until he met with Chen. 3 hours to figure out exactly how to burn down everything he'd built. His office door opened. Veronica stood there, her expression unreadable. Who were you talking to? Marcus. Security stuff for the lake house. It sounded more serious than that. Everything's serious in my business. You know that. Veronica moved closer. Adrian, I'm worried about you. You've been different the past few days. Distant, distracted. Is there something you're not telling me? I'm fine. Are you? Because if something's wrong, you can tell me. We're partners. We're going to be married. There shouldn't be secrets between us. The hypocrisy was stunning. This woman who'd been secretly poisoning him, abusing his children, planning to murder them all, she was lecturing him about secrets. Adrian stood up and took her hands. You're right. No secrets. But I promise, everything's fine. I'm just stressed about the Tommy situation and some other business complications. It'll all settle down after this weekend. Promise? Promise. He kissed her forehead, the same way she'd kissed Max before telling him his mother had burned alive. Now, I really do have to get to these meetings. You'll be okay here with the kids? Of course. We'll have a nice day together. Maybe go to the park. The thought of Veronica alone with his children made Adrian's skin crawl. But he couldn't show it, couldn't let her suspect. That sounds great. I'll be back by dinner. He left the penthouse and drove to the warehouse where he was meeting Chen. She was already there when he arrived, standing next to a plain sedan, arms crossed. Mid-40s, Asian American, dressed in a sharp suit. She looked like she could handle herself. Miss Chen, thank you for coming. Mr. Vale, you said something about turning state's evidence. I'm assuming you have a good reason for that. The best reason. Someone close to me tried to murder me and my children. I want them prosecuted, and in exchange, I'll give you everything you need to take down my organization. Chen's eyebrows rose. Everything? Everything. Names, accounts, operations, evidence, all of it. But I have conditions. Of course you do. Adrian laid it out. Full immunity for him and his children. Witness protection. New identities. And most importantly, he wanted Veronica Hale and anyone connected to the plot against him prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Chen listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said, You understand what you're asking for? Complete immunity for a crime boss who's operated for 20 years? The federal prosecutors are going to have a field day with this. But they'll take it, because what I'm offering is worth more than putting me in prison. Maybe, but I'll need proof. Evidence, not just your word. Adrian pulled out a flash drive. 37 videos of Veronica Hale abusing my children. Audio recordings of my lieutenant plotting to kill me. Financial records showing embezzlement. Phone records. Medical evidence of poisoning. And the police report on my wife's death along with an independent mechanic's confirmation that her brake line was cut. Chen took the drive. This is all legitimate? Every bite. And there's more where that came from. I've been documenting everything for the past week. Why now? Why not handle this internally the way you usually do? Because my kids almost died. Because I was stupid and blind and let a monster into my home. Because I'm tired, Miss Chen. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of wondering who's going to betray me next. Tired of being Adrian Vale. Chen studied him for a long moment. What do you want to be instead? A father, that's all. Just a father raising his kids somewhere safe. Noble. But you've killed people, Mr. Vale. Probably a lot of people. You expect me to believe you're suddenly growing a conscience? I don't have a conscience, but I have kids, and they're all that matters anymore. Chen tucked the flash drive into her pocket. I'll review this and speak with my superiors. If it's as good as you say, we can make a deal. But Mr. Vale, once you testify, there's no going back. Everyone you've ever worked with will know you're a rat. Some of them will come after you. Then you better make sure witness protection is ironclad. We will. Give me 24 hours. I'll have an answer by tomorrow. She got in her car and drove away. Adrian stood in the empty warehouse, feeling the weight of what he'd just set in motion. He'd crossed a line. In his world, there was no greater sin than what he was about to do. But his world had tried to kill his children. His world had murdered Gabrielle. His world could burn. His phone rang. Rodriguez. Boss, I finished the full analysis on the car. You're not going to like this. Tell me. The brake line was cut, but that's not all. There was also an accelerant in the engine compartment, something designed to ignite on impact. Your wife's car was supposed to crash and burn, make it look like the fuel tank ruptured. Adrian's vision went red. Someone tried to burn her alive. Yeah, if the crash hadn't killed her, the fire would have. Whoever did this wanted to be sure. Did the fire start? Accident report says there was a small fire, but first responders put it out before it spread. Your wife died from the crash itself, not the fire. But boss, she would have known. In those last seconds, she would have known someone was trying to kill her. Adrian hung up without saying goodbye. He stood there shaking, his hands clenched into fists. Gabrielle's last moments must have been terror. Feeling the brakes fail, knowing she was going to crash, seeing the flames start. And James had ordered it, had paid someone to do it, had looked Adrian in the eye afterward and pretended to grieve. The warehouse door opened. Marcus walked in, followed by Luis and Dimitri. Boss, we got a problem. What now? James is asking questions. Wants to know why you pulled the financial records, why you're having private meetings. He knows something's up. Let him ask. Doesn't matter anymore. Doesn't matter? Boss, if James thinks you're onto him, he's going to move. Could be today, could be tonight. We need to act now. We are acting, but not the way James expects. Adrian filled them in on the immunity deal, the meeting with Chen, the plan to testify. They stared at him like he'd lost his mind. You're turning rat? Luis said. Boss, that's suicide. It's survival, for me and my kids. The rest of you can take the same deal if you want. Chen said anyone who cooperates gets immunity. And if we don't want to cooperate? Then you take your chances, but I'm not asking you to come with me. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. Dimitri shook his head. This is crazy, Adrian. You built this organization from nothing. You can't just throw it away. Watch me. Marcus stepped forward. The lake house. You're still going? Yeah, tomorrow. That's where we end this. James will be waiting. He's not stupid. I know. That's why I need you there. All of you. One last job, then we're done. They looked at each other, communicating without words. Finally, Marcus nodded. Okay, boss. One last job. But after this, we're square. You go your way, we go ours. Fair enough? Adrian spent the rest of the day preparing. He backed up all the evidence to multiple secure servers. He wrote out detailed statements about every crime he'd witnessed or participated in over the past 20 years. He compiled lists of names, addresses, operations, everything the FBI would need to dismantle his empire. At 6 o'clock, he went home. Veronica was in the kitchen making dinner. The kids were doing homework at the table. It looked like a normal family evening. Adrian kissed Veronica's cheek and sat down with Max and Lily. How was your day? He asked. Good, Lily said without looking up from her math worksheet. Just good? We went to the park like Miss Veronica said. It was nice. Adrian glanced at Veronica, who was smiling as she stirred something on the stove. Did anything happen at the park? Not really. We played. Miss Veronica bought us ice cream. That was nice of her. Veronica turned around. I thought they deserved a treat. They've been so well behaved lately. Because they were terrified. Because she'd broken them down so thoroughly that they knew better than to step out of line. But that was about to end. Dinner's almost ready, Veronica said. Why don't you kids wash up? They scattered. Veronica came and sat in Adrian's lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. I'm excited for this weekend. Just the four of us at the lake. No distractions, no business, just family. Me too, Adrian lied. And after the weekend, maybe we can set a wedding date. I was thinking spring. A small ceremony, just close friends and family. Sounds perfect. Veronica kissed him, and Adrian forced himself to kiss back. To play the role. To keep her believing everything was fine. Just a few more hours. Then it would all be over. That night, after everyone was asleep, Adrian went to the kids' rooms one more time. He stood in Max's doorway, watching his son sleep. Then Lily's. They looked peaceful, safe. Tomorrow that peace would be shattered. There would be violence, fear, things they'd remember for the rest of their lives. But they'd be alive. That was all that mattered. Adrian went back to his bedroom. Veronica was asleep, or pretending to be. He climbed into bed beside her and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow. Tomorrow he'd take his family to the lake house. Tomorrow, Veronica and James would make their move. And tomorrow, Adrian would destroy them both. He didn't sleep. Just waited for dawn, counting down the hours until everything he'd built came crashing down. And when the sun finally rose over Chicago, Adrian Vale got up and prepared for war. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Saturday morning came too fast and too slow at the same time. Adrian woke up at dawn, Veronica's arm draped across his chest. He stared at the ceiling, counting the hours. 16. 16 hours until everything exploded. He slipped out of bed without waking her and went downstairs. The house was silent except for the sound of water lapping against the dock outside. Through the windows, he could see the lake stretching out like glass, morning mist hovering just above the surface. Beautiful, peaceful, a lie. Adrian made coffee and stepped out onto the deck. His phone buzzed. Marcus, all teams in position, no movement from the targets. Waiting on your signal. Adrian typed back, tonight, 10 p.m., be ready. He heard footsteps behind him and turned. Max stood in the doorway, still in his pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction. He looked so small standing there, so vulnerable. Can't sleep? Adrian asked. Max shook his head. He moved closer, hesitant, like he was approaching a dangerous animal. When had that started? When had his own son become afraid of him? Except Max wasn't afraid of him. Max was afraid of saying the wrong thing, of Veronica overhearing, of making things worse. Adrian could see it in the way the boy's eyes kept darting back toward the house. She's still asleep, Adrian said quietly. It's just us. Max's shoulders relaxed slightly. He came and stood next to Adrian, looking out at the water. Dad? Yeah, buddy? Are we really going to have to leave, like Miss Veronica said? Adrian's grip tightened on his coffee mug. What did she tell you? That if Lily and I don't behave better, you're going to send us away. To a place for bad kids. Max's voice was barely a whisper. I've been trying really hard to be good. So has Lily. But I don't think it's enough. Adrian set down his mug very carefully before he crushed it. He crouched down so he was eye level with his son. Max, look at me. Max met his eyes, and Adrian saw tears there. You and your sister are not going anywhere. You are not bad kids. You have never been bad kids. And nobody is going to take you away from me. Do you understand? But Miss Veronica was lying to you. The words came out harder than Adrian intended. He took a breath, forced his voice to soften. She's been lying about a lot of things, but that's going to stop. Soon, I promise you, Max, this is all going to stop. When? Soon. But I need you to do something for me. I need you and Lily to stay close to me today. Don't go anywhere alone with Veronica. If she asks you to go somewhere, you tell her you want me to come too. Can you do that? Max nodded slowly. Are we in danger? Adrian wanted to lie. Wanted to tell his 9-year-old son that everything was fine, that there was nothing to worry about. But Max deserved the truth. Or at least part of it. I'm handling it. But yes, you need to be careful today. Both of you. Okay? Max hesitated. Dad, I miss Mom. I know, buddy. I miss her too. Miss Veronica said Mom died because of you, because of your work. Is that true? Adrian felt something crack inside his chest. He pulled Max into a hug, maybe holding on a little too tight. Your mom died because someone hurt her, someone very bad. But I'm going to make sure that person pays for it. I promise you that. Max hugged him back, his small arms wrapping around Adrian's neck. They stayed like that for a long moment, father and son, while the sun came up over the lake. The screen door opened. Veronica stepped out, wrapped in a silk robe, perfectly put together even first thing in the morning. Well, isn't this sweet, she said, smiling. My 2 favorite men having a moment. Max stiffened in Adrian's arms. Adrian gave him one more squeeze and let go. Morning, Adrian said. Coffee's fresh. Perfect. I could use some. Veronica moved to the railing, looking out at the water. It's so beautiful here. We should come more often. Maybe we will. Veronica turned and gave him a look Adrian couldn't quite read. Max, sweetheart, why don't you go wake up your sister? I thought we could all have breakfast together, as a family. Max glanced at Adrian. Adrian nodded slightly. I'll help you make breakfast, he told Veronica. The kids can sleep a little longer. Nonsense. They're on vacation. They should be up enjoying the day. Veronica's smile didn't reach her eyes. Go on, Max. Wake your sister. Max left, shooting one more look at his father. Adrian watched him go, then turned to Veronica. He seemed upset, Veronica said. You two have a fight? Just talking. Father-son stuff. She sipped her coffee. You know, Adrian, you really should let me handle more of the parenting. You're so busy with work, and the children need structure, consistency. I could provide that. You do plenty already. Not as much as I'd like, but after we're married, things will be different. We'll be a real family, a proper family, not this patchwork situation. Adrian forced himself to take a drink of coffee instead of responding. Every word out of her mouth was calculated, designed to push and prod and test. She was feeling him out, trying to gauge if anything had changed. He couldn't give her any reason to suspect. Lily appeared in the doorway, still in her nightgown, Max behind her. Her hair was a mess of curls, and her eyes were puffy like she'd been crying. Again. "There's my girl," Veronica said brightly. "Come give me a hug." Lily hesitated. Veronica's smile tightened. "Lily," I said, "come here." Lily moved forward mechanically. Veronica pulled her into an embrace that looked warm and loving from the outside. But Adrian saw the way Veronica's hand gripped Lily's arm just a little too tight, saw the way Lily's face went blank. "How's my sweet girl this morning?" "Fine, Miss Veronica." "What did we talk about?" "Sorry, fine, Mommy." Veronica kissed the top of her head. "That's better. Now, let's all have a nice breakfast. I was thinking pancakes. Would you like that?" The kids nodded. They knew better than to say no. Breakfast was torture. Veronica made her perfect pancakes while keeping up a constant stream of cheerful chatter. The kids ate in silence. Adrian pushed food around his plate and watched the clock. 14 hours. After breakfast, Veronica suggested a walk down to the beach. Adrian insisted on coming along. They walked as a group, Veronica holding Lily's hand, Adrian walking with Max. The beach was private, the sand white and clean. Under different circumstances, it would have been a perfect family outing. "The water's still too cold for swimming," Veronica said, "but we could wade in? What do you think, kids?" "I don't want to," Lily said quietly. Veronica's grip on her hand tightened. "Why not? It's a beautiful day." "I just don't want to." "Lily, we talked about this, about being more positive, more grateful. Your father brought us all the way up here, and you can't even enjoy it?" "It's fine," Adrian cut in. "She doesn't have to swim if she doesn't want to." Veronica's eyes flashed to him. "Adrian, we discussed this. The children need to learn that they can't always have their way. They're kids. Let them be kids." "I am letting them be kids. I'm trying to give them a childhood. You're the one who spoils them, who gives in to every whim." "Not wanting to swim isn't a whim, Veronica." Her jaw clenched. For just a second, the mask slipped and Adrian saw real anger there. Then it was gone, replaced by hurt confusion. "I'm just trying to help, to be a good mother to them." "I know, but maybe back off a little." Veronica turned away, her hand dropping from Lily's. "Fine. We'll go back to the house. Clearly I'm not needed here." She walked off, her shoulders stiff. Adrian watched her go, then looked down at the kids. "You two okay?" They nodded, but neither spoke. Adrian sighed and sat down on the sand. After a moment, Max and Lily sat on either side of him. "I'm sorry," Max said. "For what?" "For making you fight with Miss Veronica. You didn't make me do anything, and don't apologize for not wanting to swim." They sat in silence, watching the water. Lily leaned against Adrian's shoulder. "Dad?" she said quietly. "Yeah, baby?" "I don't like it here. I want to go home." "We will. Soon." "How soon?" "Tomorrow." "Tomorrow. After tonight was over. After everything burned down." The afternoon dragged on. Veronica stayed in his bedroom, claiming a headache. Adrian kept the kids close, played board games with them, watched them start to relax little by little. Max even laughed at one point, a real laugh, and the sound of it nearly broke Adrian's heart. This was what they should have been, what they could have been. A father and his kids, healing together after loss, building something new. Instead, they'd been living in a nightmare while Adrian was too blind to see it. At 6, Veronica emerged from the bedroom. Her eyes were red-rimmed, makeup perfect but slightly smudged. She'd been crying, or wanted him to think she'd been crying. "I'm sorry about earlier," she said to Adrian. "I overreacted. I just want so badly to be good for them, for all of you." "It's okay." Is it? Because sometimes I feel like you don't trust me with them. Like you're always second-guessing everything I do. Adrian pulled her into a hug. She felt small in his arms, fragile. Another lie. There was nothing fragile about Veronica Hale. I trust you, he lied into her hair. I'm just stressed. Work stuff. Nothing to do with you. Promise? Promise. She pulled back and smiled. Then let me make it up to you. I'll cook dinner, something special. Your favorite. You don't have to. I want to. Please. Let me do this. Adrian's phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. Okay, thank you. Veronica kissed him and headed to the kitchen. Adrian waited until she was out of sight, then checked his phone. Marcus. Veronica just made 2 calls. First to James Reeves. Second to an unknown number. We're tracing it now. Something's happening. Adrian's stomach dropped. He typed back, Can you hear the calls? Working on it. Stand by. Adrian forced himself to breathe normally. This was it. Whatever Veronica and James had planned, they were moving it forward. He just needed to figure out what and when. He walked into the kitchen. Veronica was pulling ingredients from the refrigerator, humming to herself. Need any help? Nope, I've got it. You just relax. Maybe have a drink. There's whiskey in the study. Maybe later. I'm going to check on the kids. They're fine, Adrian. Let them play. I'll just peek in. He went upstairs to Max's room. Both kids were there, building something with Legos. They looked up when he entered. Hey, Adrian said quietly. I need you two to listen very carefully. In a few hours, some things are going to happen. Scary things, maybe. But I need you to remember that I am in control. No matter what you see or hear, I am handling it. Okay? What kind of things? Max asked. I can't explain right now, but when I tell you to go to your room and lock the door, you do it. No questions. And you don't come out until I say it's safe. You understand? Dad, you're scaring me, Lily whispered. I know, baby. I'm sorry, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? They both nodded. Adrian hugged them both. I love you, both of you, more than anything in this world. We love you too, Max said. Adrian left them and went back downstairs. His phone buzzed again, got the second call. It was to a burner phone. But we traced the location. There's someone at the property, North Woods, about half a mile out. Adrian's blood went cold. Veronica had called in backup. Someone was here, waiting. How many? Thermal shows 1 person. Armed. Take them out. Quietly. Already moving. Adrian went to the study and poured himself that whiskey. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. Veronica was accelerating. She knew something, suspected something. Or maybe this had always been the plan. Get Adrian isolated, bring in someone to finish the job. Either way, the timetable had just changed. He downed the whiskey and texted Marcus again. Move up to 8 p.m. We can't wait. Confirmed. Team's ready. 2 hours. Adrian just had to hold it together for 2 more hours. Dinner was steak, garlic potatoes, asparagus. Veronica had opened a bottle of expensive red wine. She poured them both glasses. To family, she said, raising hers. To family, Adrian echoed. He brought the glass to his lips but didn't drink. Just let the wine touch his tongue before setting it down. Veronica watched him. You're not drinking. Trying to cut back. The doctor said alcohol interferes with my medication. Since when? Since my last checkup. He said my heart's been showing some irregularities. Wants me to be more careful. Something flickered across Veronica's face. Worry? Calculation? You didn't tell me you had a checkup. It was quick. Nothing major. Just routine. Still, you should have told me. I'm going to be your wife, Adrian. We shouldn't have secrets. The irony was so thick, Adrian almost laughed. You're right. I'm sorry. They ate in tense silence. The kids barely touched their food. Veronica kept glancing at Adrian, at his wine glass, at the clock on the wall. At 7:30, Adrian's phone rang. Marcus. I should take this, Adrian said, standing up. Work thing. Now? We're having dinner. It'll just be a minute. He stepped out onto the deck. Yeah. We've got a problem. Marcus's voice was tight. The guy in the woods. We took him down, but he got a message off first. Just 2 words. He knows. Sent to who? Veronica's phone. Adrian closed his eyes. She's going to run. Or attack. Boss, we need to move now. Give me 5 minutes. Get everyone in position. Adrian hung up and went back inside. Veronica was standing at the kitchen counter, her back to him. Her phone was in her hand. Everything okay? She asked without turning around. Fine, just Marcus checking in. She set down her phone and turned around. Her face was perfectly composed, but her eyes were different, harder. Adrian, can I ask you something? Sure. Where's Elena? The question hung in the air. Adrian kept his face neutral. Elena? Our maid. I tried to call her today to ask about something at the penthouse, but her number's disconnected, and when I called the service agency, they said she quit, just walked out without notice. Isn't that strange? People quit all the time. But Elena needed that job. She was sending money back to family. Why would she just leave? I don't know, Veronica. Maybe she found something better. Or maybe someone paid her to leave. Paid her a lot. They stared at each other. The mask was cracking. Adrian could see the real Veronica underneath now, cold and calculating. Why would I pay our maid to leave? You tell me. Upstairs, a door closed. Footsteps in the hallway. Max called out, Dad! Stay upstairs, Adrian called back, Stay upstairs. Now. Veronica smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. You know, don't you? I'm not sure how or when you figured it out, but you know. Adrian didn't bother lying anymore. Yeah, I know. How much? All of it. The poison, the abuse, Gabrielle, James, all of it. Veronica's hand moved to the knife block on the counter. Adrian's hand went to the gun at his back. Don't, he said quietly. Or what? You'll shoot me? Here? In front of your children? If I have to. You won't. You're a killer, Adrian, but you have rules. You don't hurt women. You don't do violence in front of your kids. It's your weakness. I've broken rules before. Not these ones. Veronica pulled out a knife, the long chef's knife she'd used to cut the steaks. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to let me walk out of here. I'm going to get in my car, and I'm going to drive away. And you're never going to see me again. No. No. You're not leaving. You're going to pay for what you did. To Gabrielle, to my kids, to me. Veronica laughed. Pay? You think I'm going to pay? Adrian, I'm a federal prosecutor's daughter. I have connections you can't even imagine. You're a gangster, a criminal. Who do you think they'll believe? I have evidence, videos, audio recordings, your phone records, bank transfers, all of it. Her smile faltered. You're bluffing. Elena recorded everything. Every time you hurt them, every time you lied to them, every sick thing you said. 37 videos. I've watched all of them. The color drained from Veronica's face. That bitch. She saved my children's lives, which makes her a hero in my book. She's a dead woman. Her and her whole family. I'll make sure. You're not making sure of anything. You're done, Veronica. She gripped the knife tighter. I'll scream. I'll tell the police you attacked me. That you've been abusing those kids, not me. I'll say you killed Gabrielle. They'll believe me, Adrian. They always believe the pretty white woman over the mob boss. Maybe they would have, but you made one mistake. What? You called in backup, a guy with a gun, waiting in the woods. Except my guys found him first. And before they put him down, he sent you a message. He knows. You got that message right before you asked about Elena. Veronica's jaw clenched. You're guessing. I'm not. And here's the thing about your backup. He's not the only one here. I've got 6 men surrounding this property. You're not driving away, Veronica. You're not walking away. You're going to face exactly what you've done. For a long moment, they stood there in silence. Then Veronica's face twisted into something ugly. You think you're better than me? You've killed how many people, Adrian? How many lives have you ruined? At least I had the decency to marry you first. You were planning to kill children. Your children. The product of you and that sanctimonious bitch Gabrielle. Did you know she used to volunteer at homeless shelters? Used to talk about how important it was to give back, all while spending your blood money. Veronica spat the words. She made me sick, acting so pure, so good. At least I'm honest about what I am. What are you, Veronica? Besides a psychopath? I'm a survivor. I'm someone who saw an opportunity and took it. James approached me 2 years ago. Said he had a plan to take over a criminal empire, but he needed someone on the inside, someone who could get close to you. He showed me photos, told me exactly what to do and say. It was easy, Adrian. You were so desperate for companionship, so lonely. It was almost pathetic. Did you kill Gabrielle? James did that. I hadn't even met you yet. But yes, I knew about it. He told me the story on our third date, how he'd hired someone to cut her brake line, how you'd fallen apart when she died, how perfect it was because now you were vulnerable. Adrian's finger tightened on the trigger of his gun. Keep talking. What else do you want to know? That I never loved you? That every kiss made me want to vomit? That I used to shower after sex just to feel clean again? Veronica laughed. Or maybe you want to know about the kids. How much fun it was to break them down little by little. How Lily would cry herself to sleep every night begging for her mommy. How Max wet the bed because he was so scared. Stop. Why? You wanted the truth. Here it is. I hated them. Hate them. 2 little reminders of Gabrielle walking around with her face, her eyes. I wanted to erase them. Erase her. Leave nothing but my mark on your life. Adrian pulled out his gun and pointed it at her. Put down the knife. Or what? Or I shoot you. Veronica's eyes went to the stairs. Max and Lily were there, frozen in terror. They'd heard everything. Go ahead, Veronica said softly. Show them what you really are. Show them their father is a murderer. Let that be the last thing they remember when they go to sleep at night. Adrian's hand shook. She was right. If he pulled this trigger, if he killed her here, now, in front of them, it would destroy them. They'd already lost their mother, lost their innocence. He couldn't take this from them, too. The moment of hesitation was all Veronica needed. She threw the knife. Adrian dove sideways, the blade missing his head by inches and embedding in the wall. Veronica was already moving, running for the front door. Adrian scrambled to his feet and went after her. She made it outside before he caught her. His hand grabbed her arm, spun her around. She clawed at his face, her nails raking bloody lines down his cheek. Let go of me. Not a chance. They struggled. She was strong, stronger than he'd expected. Probably all that yoga she pretended to do. They stumbled down the deck stairs onto the lawn. Headlights cut through the darkness. A car was speeding up the driveway. James's car. Of course. Of course he'd come. Either Veronica had called him or he'd been monitoring the situation. Either way, backup was arriving. Marcus and his team materialized from the woods, guns drawn. The car screeched to a stop and James jumped out, weapon in hand. Let her go, Adrian. Adrian kept his grip on Veronica. Not happening. You're surrounded. My guys are everywhere. Actually, Marcus said, stepping into the light, your guys are currently zip-tied in the back of a van. All 4 of them. You're the one who's surrounded, James. James's eyes darted around. He saw Marcus's men, saw the guns pointed at him. His face went pale. Adrian, listen to me. We can work this out. We can make a deal. There's no deal. You killed my wife. You tried to kill me. You hurt my children. I never touched those kids. You planned to. You and her. Adrian shook Veronica. You were going to murder them. It was business. Just business. My family is not business. The gun in Adrian's hand came up. James raised his in response. For a second they stood there, 2 men who'd been brothers in arms, now ready to kill each other. Then Veronica made her move. She twisted in Adrian's grip, using his distraction, and grabbed the gun from his waistband. Before he could react, she had it pressed against her own temple. Nobody moves, she said. Everyone froze. Veronica, James said carefully, put the gun down. No, I'm done playing. This is over. She looked at Adrian and her eyes were wild. You want to know why I really did this? Why I agreed to James's plan? I don't care. Because I wanted what she had, what Gabrielle had. Perfect life, perfect family, perfect husband. I wanted to take it and break it and make it mine. But I couldn't. Because you never really let her go, did you? She's still here in this house. In your head. In those kids. Veronica, Adrian said slowly. Put the gun down. Why? So you can have me arrested? So I can spend the rest of my life in prison? She laughed, the sound sharp and jagged. I'd rather die than go back to being nothing, to being invisible. You were never invisible. You were a prosecutor's daughter. You had everything. I had a name. that's all. A dead man's name and his reputation. Do you know what it's like living in that shadow? Everyone expecting you to be perfect, to be brilliant, to live up to this legacy you never asked for? Veronica's finger tightened on the trigger. I was drowning in expectations. And then James offered me a way out, a way to be someone, to matter. By killing innocent people? By taking what I wanted, what I deserved. Adrian took a careful step forward. Marcus and his men had their weapons trained on Veronica, but nobody was shooting, not with her gun pressed to her own head. You think you deserve my family? Adrian asked. You think you earned the right to hurt children? I think I deserve better than being second place to a ghost. Veronica's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Real ones, maybe. Or maybe just another performance. You never looked at me the way you looked at her pictures. Never loved me the way you loved her. I was just a replacement, a cheap substitute. Then why stay? Why go through with all of this? Because, the word exploded out of her. Because if I couldn't have your love, I'd have your money, your power, your empire. I'd have everything she had, and I'd burn it all down just to prove I could. James lowered his gun slightly. Veronica, this isn't helping. Put the gun down and let me handle this. Handle it? You couldn't handle anything, James. You've been planning this for 3 years and you still haven't won. He figured it out. Some maid figured it out. We lost. We haven't lost. We just need to regroup. Think this through. There's nothing to think through. Veronica's hand was shaking now, the gun wavering against her temple. It's over. We're done. And I'm not going to prison. I'm not going to let them lock me up and throw away the key. Adrian saw movement from the corner of his eye. The kids, creeping down from the porch. Max had his arm around Lily, trying to pull her back, but she was fighting him. Please, Lily called out, her voice small and terrified. Please don't shoot yourself. Veronica's eyes snapped to the little girl. Something flickered across her face, surprise maybe, or confusion. Why do you care? I've done nothing but hurt you. Because, Lily's voice broke. Because if you die, it means you win. You get to escape. And we have to remember you forever. We have to live with what you did. The words hung in the air. Out of the mouths of babes, Adrian thought distantly. His 7-year-old daughter had just articulated what he couldn't. Lily, go back inside, Adrian said. No. Lily pulled free from Max and walked forward. Marcus moved to intercept her, but Adrian held up a hand. Let her come. Let Veronica see what she'd done, who she'd hurt. Lily stopped a few feet from Veronica, looking up at her with those eyes that were so much like Gabrielle's. My mom died, and I didn't get to say goodbye, Lily said. I didn't get to tell her I loved her one more time. That's not fair. But you dying isn't fair either. You should have to face what you did. You should have to see us grow up and be happy without you. Veronica stared at the child. Then slowly she started to laugh. Not the manic laughter from before, but something darker, emptier. Smart kid. Too smart. The gun moved from her temple, swung toward Lily. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you all need to go. Everything happened at once. Adrian lunged forward. James raised his weapon. Marcus shouted something, and Elena Cross stepped out of the shadows behind Veronica, a tire iron in her hands. She swung hard. The metal connected with the back of Veronica's skull with a sickening crack. Veronica dropped like a puppet with cut strings, the gun falling from her hand. Adrian grabbed Lily and pulled her back. Marcus's men swarmed Veronica, checking for a pulse, securing the weapon. She's alive, one of them called out. Unconscious but breathing. Adrian turned to Elena. She stood there, the tire iron still in her hands, her whole body shaking. I thought, Marcus said you were in Michigan. I was, but I couldn't. I had to make sure the children were safe. Elena's eyes went to Lily. Are you hurt, sweet girl? Lily shook her head. She was crying now, great heaving sobs. Max ran over and wrapped his arms around his sister. They clung to each other while Adrian tried to process what had just happened. James was still standing there, gun hanging loose in his hand. He looked lost, like he'd just watched his entire world collapse. James, Adrian said quietly, put it down. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? You'd kill me, kill my kids, take everything I built. I built it too. I was there from the beginning, Adrian. Every deal, every war, every decision. I earned my place in this organization. By murdering my wife? James's face twisted. Gabrielle was a liability. She was going to convince you to go legitimate, to leave the business. She was soft, and she was making you soft. Someone had to do something. So you killed her. I protected the empire. Our empire. And yeah, I thought I could take it when you were gone. I thought I deserved it. Is that so wrong? You killed an innocent woman. You tried to kill children. Yeah, James, that's wrong. Innocent? James laughed bitterly. Nobody's innocent in this life. Not Gabrielle, not you, sure as hell not me. We're all just trying to survive. Not like this. Not by hurting kids. Your kids would have been fine. We would have sent them away somewhere nice, boarding school in Switzerland maybe. They would have lived. Adrian pulled out his gun and pointed it at James's head. You're a liar. You were going to kill them. I heard the recording, you and Veronica planning their accident. James's shoulders sagged. Yeah, we were. Because they were loose ends. Because as long as they existed, you'd have a reason to fight back. To come after us. We needed a clean break. You needed to murder 2 children. I needed to win. James raised his gun again, but his hand was shaking. I needed to finally be the one in charge. To not be your second anymore. To be the boss. Then you should have worked harder. Been smarter. Earned it the right way. There is no right way, Adrian. This is organized crime. We're criminals. We take what we want. Not from me. Not my family. They stood there, guns pointed at each other. James's face was a mess of emotions, anger, fear, regret, defiance. Adrian wondered if his own face looked the same. I should kill you right now, Adrian said. So do it. Pull the trigger. Add one more body to the pile. In front of my kids. Let them see me execute you. They've already seen everything else. Might as well show them who you really are. Adrian's finger tightened on the trigger. It would be so easy. One bullet, one problem solved. James had earned it. Had murdered Gabrielle, tried to kill Adrian, hurt the kids. He deserved to die. But Lily's words echoed in Adrian's head. If you die, it means you win. You get to escape. The same was true for James. Death was easy. Death was an escape. Prison was harder. Prison was having to live with what you'd done day after day, year after year. Adrian lowered his gun. No. No. I'm not killing you. You're going to face every single thing you've done. In court, in prison, for the rest of your miserable life. You think I'll go to prison? I'll cut a deal. I'll give them everything on you. On the organization, I'll walk. You won't, because I've already made my own deal. James's face went pale. What? You think I didn't have a backup plan? The second I found out what you were doing, I reached out to the FBI. Agent Sarah Chen, Organized Crime Division. I gave her everything, every record, every account, every piece of evidence about Gabrielle's murder, the poisoning, the abuse, and I gave her something else too. What? Immunity. For me and my children. Full immunity in exchange for complete cooperation. I'm turning state's witness, James. I'm testifying against you, against Veronica, against everyone involved in this. And then I'm walking away. The blood drained from James's face. You're lying. I'm not. Agent Chen is on her way here right now. Should be here in about... Adrian checked his watch. 15 minutes. Along with a full tactical team. They're going to arrest you and Veronica. They're going to seize all the assets you tried to steal. And they're going to make sure you never see daylight again. You bastard. You're betraying the organization, everyone who ever worked for you. No, I'm protecting what matters, my kids. That's all I care about anymore. James's gun swung toward the children. Then maybe I should take away what you care about. 3 shots rang out simultaneously. Marcus, Luis, and Dimitri all fired at once. James stumbled backward, red blooming across his chest. He looked down at the wounds, almost surprised, then back up at Adrian. You were my brother, James said, blood bubbling from his lips. You stopped being my brother the day you killed my wife. James collapsed. Marcus moved forward, checking his pulse. He's gone. Adrian felt nothing. No satisfaction, no grief, no relief. Just emptiness. James had been part of his life for 8 years. had been his right hand, his confidant, his friend, and it had all been a lie. How many other lies was his life built on? How many other people had betrayed him without him knowing? Sirens cut through the night. Red and blue lights flickered between the trees. The FBI was early. Agent Chen emerged from a black SUV, flanked by a dozen tactical agents. She was mid-40s, Asian American, with sharp eyes that took in the scene instantly. "Mr. Vale, I see you've been busy." "Agent Chen, you made good time. We were already in the area. Wanted to be close in case things went sideways." Her eyes landed on James's body, then on Veronica, who was starting to stir. "I'm going to need statements from everyone. The kids can give their statements later, at the field office with appropriate child advocates present." Chen's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Vale, I know this is hard, but you did the right thing. These people would have destroyed you and your children. They already did destroy us. We're just what's left." Chen didn't argue. She gestured to her team, and they began securing the scene. Paramedics loaded Veronica onto a stretcher, her hands already cuffed to the rails. She was conscious now, her eyes tracking Adrian as they carried her past. "This isn't over," she slurred through what was probably a concussion. "I'll get out. I'll come back. And when I do—" "You won't," Chen interrupted. "You're looking at attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, child abuse, poisoning, and about 15 other charges. You'll be lucky to see parole in 40 years. Veronica's face contorted with rage. "I want a lawyer." "You'll get one after we process you." The paramedics loaded her into an ambulance. Chen turned to Adrian. "And you're sure about this? About testifying? Once you start, there's no going back." "I'm sure. Your organization will collapse. Everyone you've worked with will be exposed. Some will go to prison. Others will come after you. Then we'll be in protective custody. New identities, new lives. It's not that simple with kids. They'll have questions. They'll miss their friends, their school, their home. Their home has been a nightmare for 6 months. Trust me, they'll adapt." Chen studied him for a long moment. "Okay, we'll start the relocation process tomorrow. Tonight, I need you and your children at a safe house. We've already got one prepared." "What about my people?" Adrian gestured to Marcus and the others. "Anyone who wants immunity can have it if they cooperate. Anyone who doesn't?" Chen shrugged. "They'll take their chances." Marcus stepped forward. "Boss, you don't have to do this. We can handle this internally. We can make this go away." "No, we can't. Not anymore. This got too big, Marcus. Too messy. And I'm tired. I'm so damn tired." "So you're just going to abandon everyone? All the people who've been loyal to you?" "I'm giving them a choice. Testify and walk away, or stay in the life and take the consequences. That's more than most bosses would do." Marcus's jaw clenched. "And what about me? What am I supposed to do?" "That's up to you. But if you want my advice, get out. Take the immunity deal. Start over. You're young enough to have a real life. This is my real life." "Then it's your funeral, literally." Marcus looked like he wanted to say more, but Chen stepped between them. "Mr. Chen, you have 30 seconds to decide, immunity or arrest. Those are your options." Marcus looked at Adrian one last time. "I'll take the deal. But not because I'm afraid. Because you were right about one thing. I am young enough to start over. And I don't want to end up like James. Or like you." The words stung, but Adrian couldn't blame him. He'd brought this on himself, all of it. Over the next hour, the property was processed like a crime scene. Agents photographed everything, collected evidence, took statements. Adrian sat on the porch steps with Max and Lily, watching their world get dismantled piece by piece. "Dad," Max said quietly, "what's going to happen to us? We're going to go somewhere new, somewhere safe. We'll have different names, different lives, but we'll be together. Will I still be Max? On the inside, yeah. Always. But to everyone else, you'll be someone new. What about school, my friends? New school, new friends." Max digested this. "Because of Miss Veronica?" "Because of a lot of things. But yeah, mostly because of her." Lily leaned against Adrian's side. She hadn't said much since Elena had knocked Veronica out, just sat there, processing. Lily? Adrian put his arm around her. You okay? I don't know. I don't think so, but I will be. Yeah, baby, you will be. We all will be. Elena approached, wringing her hands. Mr. Vale, the agents want to speak with me. About the videos, the evidence. Tell them everything. Don't hold back. And after, what happens to me? Agent Chen said you'll be placed in witness protection too. New identity, new life, if you want it. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I just wanted to help the children. I didn't mean to cause all this. You saved their lives, Elena. Don't ever apologize for that. She nodded and walked away, escorted by 2 agents. Adrian watched her go, this woman who'd shown more courage than most of his soldiers ever had. Agent Chen came back holding a tablet. Mr. Vale, I need you to review this and sign. It's the immunity agreement. Once you sign, you're committed. No backing out. Adrian took the tablet. The document was dense, full of legal language he'd need a lawyer to fully understand. But the core was simple enough, full immunity for him and his children in exchange for complete cooperation. He'd testify against everyone, hold nothing back, burn down everything he'd built, his empire. 20 years of work, thousands of people whose livelihoods depended on his organization, gone. But when he looked at Max and Lily, at their faces still marked by trauma, the choice was easy. He signed. Chen took the tablet back. Okay. From this moment on, you're under federal protection. We're moving you to the safe house now. Gather whatever you need from inside, but make it quick. Adrian stood up. Kids, go pack a bag. Just essentials. Clothes, toiletries, 1 toy each. What about our other stuff? Max asked. It'll be shipped to us later. Maybe. Some of it. They went inside. Adrian followed, moving through the lake house one last time. This place was supposed to have been a family retreat. Instead, it had become a battlefield. He grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and threw in some clothes. In the nightstand, he found the photo he always kept there. Gabrielle, Max, and Lily at Navy Pier, all of them smiling. Gabrielle's hair was blowing in the wind, her hand on Lily's shoulder. Max was making a goofy face at the camera. Before Veronica. Before James's betrayal. Before everything turned to shit. Adrian folded the photo carefully and put it in his pocket. In the kids' rooms, Max and Lily were packing with the efficient movements of children who'd learned not to get attached to things. Lily grabbed her stuffed rabbit. Max took a soccer ball and some clothes. That was it. Everything else they left behind. They met back in the living room. 3 people, 3 bags, ready to walk away from everything they'd ever known. Mr. Vale, one of the agents called from the door. We need to move. They walked out together. The property was lit up like a movie set. Agents everywhere, crime scene tape marking off areas. James's body was gone, already bagged and tagged. Veronica's blood was still on the lawn where Elena had struck her. 2 black SUVs waited in the driveway. Chen opened the door to the first one. Get in, we've got a 2-hour drive ahead of us. They climbed inside. The interior smelled like new car and gun oil. Adrian buckled Lily in, then Max, then himself. The doors closed with a solid thunk. As they pulled away, Adrian looked back at the lake house. It disappeared into the darkness, swallowed by trees and distance. He'd never see it again. Would never see most of his old life again. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Relief. The safe house was a nondescript ranch home in suburban Indiana. Beige siding, small lawn, neighbors close enough to see but not close enough to matter. The kind of place Adrian would never have looked twice at before. Now it was home. Chen walked them through the security setup. Cameras, panic buttons, armed agents rotating shifts outside. Then she showed them the bedrooms. We've set it up as best we could on short notice. Tomorrow we'll get you properly situated. New identities, new documents, new everything. But for tonight, just rest. When do we start the debriefing? Adrian asked. Monday. That gives you the weekend to settle in. Spend time with your kids, process everything. Chen's expression was almost sympathetic. This is going to be hard, Mr. Vale. What you're doing, testifying against your entire organization, people have been killed for less. I know. And you're still doing it. I don't have a choice. Not if I want my kids to have any kind of future. Chen nodded. Get some sleep. We'll talk more tomorrow. She left. Adrian stood in the middle of the safe house living room, looking around at the cheap furniture and bland walls. This was it. This was what trading an empire looked like. Dad? Max stood in the doorway of one of the bedrooms. There's only 2 beds. Do we have to share? For now, yeah. That okay? I guess. Lily snores, though. I do not. Lily's voice drifted from the other room. Do too. Do not. Adrian smiled despite everything. They sounded like normal kids having a normal fight. It was the best thing he'd heard in months. Okay. Both of you, get ready for bed. It's late. They grumbled, but obeyed. Adrian helped them settle in, tucking them into their beds like he used to do when they were smaller, when Gabrielle was alive and things were simpler. Dad, Lily said as he turned out the light. Are we safe now? Yeah, baby. We're safe. Promise? I promise. She nodded and closed her eyes. Within minutes, both kids were asleep, exhausted by the day's trauma. Adrian sat in the living room staring at nothing. His phone, his old phone, his real phone, was gone. Confiscated by the FBI. All his contacts, all his connections, all his power. Gone. He was nobody now. Just a man in witness protection with 2 traumatized kids and a mountain of testimony to give. Somewhere in Illinois, federal prosecutors were already building their case. They'd use everything Adrian gave them to dismantle his organization, arrest his associates, seize his assets. By the time they were done, the empire he'd built would be dust, and Adrian would be the one who destroyed it. He thought about calling Marcus, checking in, making sure everyone knew the deal, but he couldn't. No contact with anyone from his old life. That was the rule. So instead, Adrian pulled out the photo of Gabrielle and the kids, looked at her face, frozen in that moment of happiness. Before the brake line was cut, before she was murdered, before everything fell apart. I got them, he whispered to the photo. The people who did this to you, to us. I got them. The photo didn't answer. Photos never did. Adrian sat there until dawn, watching the light creep through the windows of his new life. When the sun was fully up, he heard movement from the kids' room. Max and Lily emerged, rumpled and confused. Where are we? Max asked. Indiana, safe house. For how long? I don't know. Few weeks, maybe, until they set up our permanent relocation. And then? And then somewhere else, somewhere far away. New town, new school, new names, everything new. Lily climbed into Adrian's lap. She was getting too big for this, but he held her anyway. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too, baby. Me too. But we're together, right? Right. Always together. Max sat down next to them. What's going to happen to Miss Veronica? Prison. For a very long time. Good. Max's voice was hard. I hope she stays there forever. Adrian couldn't argue with that. They sat together as the morning light filled the room, 3 people trying to figure out what came next. Outside, federal agents patrolled the perimeter. Inside, they were safe. Protected. But protection had a price, and Adrian was paying it. His empire, his reputation, his identity. All of it gone in exchange for this moment. This quiet morning with his children. Was it worth it? Adrian looked at Max and Lily, saw them starting to relax in a way they hadn't in months, saw the fear beginning to fade from their eyes. Yeah, it was worth it. Agent Chen showed up around 9 with coffee and donuts. She sat down with Adrian while the kids ate in the kitchen. How are you holding up? She asked. I've been better. I can imagine. Listen, I wanted to give you a heads up. Veronica's awake and talking. She's trying to cut a deal. Adrian's jaw clenched. What kind of deal? Reduced sentence in exchange for testimony against you. She's claiming you orchestrated everything. The abuse, the poisoning, Gabrielle's murder. Says she was just following your orders. That's bullshit. I know. We have the videos, the evidence, Elena's testimony. Veronica's deal isn't going anywhere, but I wanted you to be prepared. Her lawyers are going to try every angle. Let them. The truth is the truth. The truth is whatever a jury believes, and Veronica's good at lying. We both know that. Adrian took a long drink of coffee. So what do I do? You stick to the plan. You testify, you give us everything, and we make sure the evidence is airtight. Veronica can spin whatever story she wants. It won't matter. And James? What's his story going to be? James is dead. He doesn't get a story. Right. Adrian kept forgetting that part. James was gone, shot by Marcus and the others. No trial, no testimony, no chance to defend himself. Adrian should have felt something about that. Guilt, maybe. Regret. But there was nothing. James had made his choice, had murdered Gabrielle, tried to kill Adrian and the kids. He'd earned his end. What about the rest of my organization? Adrian asked. The people who weren't involved in this? Most of them will be arrested based on your testimony. Some will cut deals, some won't. That's how this works. They're going to hate me. Probably. But they're criminals, Mr. Vale. You are a criminal. This is what happens when that life catches up with you. I know. Adrian set down his coffee. Doesn't make it easier. Nothing about this is going to be easy, but you're doing the right thing. For your kids, for yourself. That has to count for something. Maybe it did. Adrian wasn't sure anymore. The weekend passed in a blur of paperwork and preparation. Chen and her team walked Adrian through the testimony process, what to expect in court, how to handle cross-examination. They rehearsed his statement over and over until Adrian could recite it in his sleep. On Sunday night, Chen brought in a file. Your new identities. This is who you'll be after the trial. Adrian opened it. Inside were birth certificates, social security cards, school records, everything needed to prove that Andrew Miller, age 39, and his children Matthew and Laura Miller existed. Andrew Miller. Adrian stared at the name. It was so generic, so forgettable, perfect for disappearing. Where are we going? He asked. Can't tell you yet. Security protocol. You'll find out after the trial concludes. When does it start? Veronica's arraignment is Tuesday. Preliminary hearings will take a few weeks. The actual trial probably won't start for 3 to 4 months. We're pushing for a speedy trial, but her lawyers will fight it. 4 months. 4 months of living in this safe house, preparing to testify, waiting for his entire world to be put on display. 4 months of Max and Lily missing school, missing their friends, living in limbo. Can the kids at least go to school while we wait? Adrian asked. We'll arrange something. Homeschooling, probably. Maybe a tutor. We can't risk them being in public right now. Of course not, because someone from Adrian's organization might find them, might use them to get to Adrian, might finish what Veronica and James started. This is going to take years, isn't it? Adrian said, for them to feel safe, to feel normal. Probably. Trauma like this doesn't heal quickly, but they're young, they're resilient, and they have you. Chen closed the file. That's more than a lot of kids in their situation have. Adrian thought about all the kids whose parents he'd destroyed over the years. The ones who'd grown up without fathers because Adrian had sent them to prison or put them in the ground. The ones who'd lost everything because Adrian had needed to send a message. Karma was a bitch. Agent Chen, Adrian said slowly, when this is all over, when we're relocated and settled, is there any chance at all, that I could do something useful? Help people instead of hurting them? Chen looked surprised. What did you have in mind? I don't know. Community work, maybe? Helping at-risk kids? Something that makes up for he gestured vaguely. Everything. We can look into it. But Andrew Miller needs to be boring, Mr. Vale. Forgettable. The more you stand out, the more likely someone finds you. I understand, but maybe boring can still be useful. Maybe. Chen stood up. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start prep in earnest. It's going to be a long few months. She left. Adrian sat alone in the safe house living room, holding the file with his new identity. Andrew Miller, father of 2. No criminal record, no empire, no power. Just a man trying to protect his kids. He could live with that. The trial started on a Tuesday in late September, 4 months after that night at the lake house. Adrian sat in the witness box wearing a suit he'd never owned before, answering to a name that still felt foreign on his tongue. Andrew Miller. Regular guy. Nobody special. The courtroom was packed. Press in the gallery, sketch artists frantically drawing, prosecutors at one table, and Veronica's defense team at the other. Veronica herself sat perfectly still, dressed in a demure gray suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month. She'd cut her hair shorter, softened her makeup, trying to look sympathetic, innocent. It almost worked. If you didn't know what she'd done, you'd think she was the victim here. Adrian caught her eye across the room. She smiled at him, small, sad, like she was disappointed in him, like he was the one who'd betrayed her. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Rebecca Torres, stood up. "Mr. Miller, can you tell the court about your relationship with the defendant?" Adrian took a breath. This was it. No going back now. "I knew her as Veronica Hale. We were engaged. She lived with me and my children for 6 months. And during that time, what was your understanding of her relationship with your children?" "I thought she cared about them. Thought she was trying to be a good stepmother. But that wasn't the case." "No, she was torturing them." Veronica's lawyer shot to his feet. "Objection. Inflammatory language. Sustained. Mr. Miller, please stick to facts." Adrian nodded. "She was psychologically and physically abusing my children, telling them I didn't want them, threatening them, hurting them when I wasn't around." "And you have evidence of this?" "Yes. Videos recorded by my housekeeper, Elena Cross." Torres pulled up the first video on the courtroom screen. Adrian had seen it dozens of times by now, but it still made his stomach turn. Veronica, sweet-voiced and smiling, telling Lily that Gabrielle had burned alive, telling Max that his father's enemies would kill him, locking them in closets, pulling hair, denying food. The jury watched in silence. A few of them looked sick. One woman was crying. When the video ended, Torres turned back to Adrian. "How long had this been going on?" "Months, maybe the entire time she lived with us. I didn't know until Elena showed me the recordings." "Why didn't you know, Mr. Miller?" There it was. The question Adrian had been asking himself every day for 4 months. "Because I was blind. I wanted to believe she was good for us, that we could be a family again after my wife died. So I didn't see what was right in front of me." "And when you did see it? When you found out what the defendant was doing?" "I planned to confront her, but then I discovered something else." "What did you discover?" "That she and my business partner, James Reeves, were planning to kill me and my children. That they'd been working together for years. And that James had murdered my first wife, Gabrielle." The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order. Veronica's face stayed perfectly blank, but Adrian saw her hands clench in her lap. Torres waited for silence. "Can you explain how you discovered this plot?" Adrian walked them through it. The switched pills, the phone records, the audio recording of James and Tommy discussing the plan, Elena's evidence. All of it laid out piece by piece. By the time he finished, the jury looked stunned. Veronica's lawyer was taking furious notes, probably trying to figure out how to spin this. Torres showed them more evidence. Bank records showing money moving between James and Veronica. Text messages discussing the plan. Medical records showing the digoxin in Adrian's system. Photographs of bruises on the children that Elena had documented. It was overwhelming. Damning. Impossible to deny. Then came cross-examination. Veronica's lawyer was a slick guy named Michael Brennan. Expensive suit, perfect hair, shark's eyes. "Mr. Miller," he said, emphasis on the fake name. "Or should I call you Adrian Vale?" "Andrew Miller is my legal name now." "But you were Adrian Vale, crime boss, head of an organized criminal enterprise that controlled drugs, weapons, and prostitution across 3 states. Isn't that correct?" "I was part of that world, yes." "Part of it? You ran it. You gave the orders. People died on your command." "Yes." "How many people would you say you've killed over the years, Mr. Miller?" Adrian met his eyes. "I don't know. I stopped counting. More than 10? Yes. More than 20? Probably." "So we're supposed to believe that you, a man who's killed dozens of people, are the victim here? That my client, a woman with no criminal record, somehow manipulated you?" "She didn't manipulate me. She deceived me. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're a violent criminal trying to blame his crimes on a woman. Classic abuser behavior, Mr. Vale." Torres objected. The judge sustained it. But the damage was done. Brennan had planted the seed of doubt. Let's talk about these videos, Brennan continued. These videos allegedly showing my client abusing your children. Who had access to them? Elena Cross recorded them. She sent them to me. And where is Ms. Cross now? Witness protection. How convenient. So we can't question her about how these videos might have been edited or manipulated. They weren't manipulated. You're certain because you're an expert in video forensics? I know what I saw. What you saw on videos provided by a woman you were paying, a woman who might have had her own reasons to make my client look bad. Adrian's jaw clenched. Elena had no reason to lie. Didn't she? You were her employer. She was an undocumented immigrant sending money back to family in Guatemala. Maybe she thought if she gave you what you wanted to see, you'd help her. Maybe she fabricated evidence to secure her own safety. That's not what happened. But it could have happened, couldn't it? No, Brennan smiled. No further questions. The trial went on for 3 weeks. Witness after witness, evidence piled on evidence. Elena testified via video link from her safe house, her face digitally obscured. She was calm, steady, unshakable. Brennan tried to rattle her but couldn't. Marcus testified about the phone intercepts, the surveillance at the lake house. The prosecutor walked him through every detail of that night. James's arrival, the confrontation, the shooting. Veronica never testified. Her lawyers advised against it. Too risky. Instead, they paraded character witnesses. People who swore Veronica was kind, gentle, incapable of the things she was accused of. It didn't matter. The evidence was too strong. On a Friday afternoon in October, the jury came back after 6 hours of deliberation. Guilty on all counts. Veronica's face crumpled. For the first time since the trial started, she cried. Real tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup. Her lawyers put their hands on her shoulders, whispered something Adrian couldn't hear. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks later. Outside the courthouse, Adrian stood with Agent Chen while reporters shouted questions. He ignored them all, climbed into the waiting SUV, and headed back to the safe house. Max and Lily were waiting. They'd been staying with a Child Protective Services caseworker during the trial, kept away from the media circus. Now they rushed to Adrian the second he walked in. Is she going to jail? Max asked. Yes, for a very long time. Lily hugged him tight. Good. They stood there for a moment, the three of them. Then Lily pulled back. Dad, can we go home now? Home. Adrian didn't even know what that meant anymore. The penthouse was being seized by the government. All his assets frozen or sold. His organization dismantled, his associates arrested or scattered. There was no home to go back to. We're going somewhere new, Adrian said. Somewhere far away. Agent Chen says it's all arranged. Where? She won't tell me until after sentencing. Security reasons. Will we like it? I don't know, baby, but we'll be together. That's what matters. Sentencing day came cold and gray, the kind of October morning that promised winter wasn't far off. Adrian sat in the courtroom one last time, watching Veronica stand before the judge. She'd written a statement. Her lawyer read it aloud. It was full of apologies, expressions of remorse, claims that she'd been manipulated by James Reeves, that she'd been a victim too. It was all bullshit, but she sold it well. By the end, half the courtroom was in tears. Then Torres stood up. Your Honor, the defendant has shown no genuine remorse. She tortured children. She poisoned a man in his own home. She orchestrated the murder of an innocent woman. And even now, she tries to shift blame to others. The people deserve justice. Those children deserve justice. Gabrielle Vale deserves justice. The judge looked at Veronica for a long moment. Ms. Hale, you have been convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, child abuse, poisoning, and numerous other charges. The evidence against you was overwhelming. The jury saw through your lies, and so do I. Veronica's lawyer started to speak, but the judge held up a hand. I've presided over a lot of cases in my career. I've seen a lot of evil. But what you did, the calculated cruelty of it, that stands out. You didn't just try to kill Adrian Vale. You tried to destroy him, to break him through his children. That takes a special kind of darkness. He paused, shuffling papers. For the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, I sentence you to 25 years. For attempted murder, 20 years. For child abuse, 15 years. For poisoning, 10 years. These sentences will run consecutively, not concurrently. Additionally, you are ordered to pay restitution to the Vale family in the amount of $5 million. The math was simple. Veronica was looking at 70 years. She'd die in prison. Her legs buckled. The bailiffs caught her before she hit the floor. She was screaming now, all pretense of composure gone. This isn't fair. He's a criminal. He's killed people. Why does he get to walk free while I... The judge banged his gavel. Remove her from my courtroom. They dragged Veronica out, still screaming. Adrian watched her go and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief, just emptiness. It was over. Finally, over. Outside, Chen was waiting with a folder. Your relocation orders. You leave tomorrow. Adrian opened the folder. Inside was information about a small town in Oregon, population 8,000. Mountains, forests, a river. The kind of place where nothing much happened and everybody knew everybody. The kind of place Adrian Vale would have hated. Andrew Miller might like it, though. What's my cover story? Adrian asked. Widower. Former accountant. Moved west for a fresh start after your wife died. You've got a job lined up at a local nonprofit. Nothing flashy, just boring paperwork. And the kids? Enrolled in public school under their new names, we've created complete academic records, medical histories, everything. As far as anyone in that town knows, you've always been Andrew Miller. What if someone recognizes us? They won't. You're hours from any major city, no connection to Chicago or your old life. And we'll be monitoring. If anyone from your past gets too close, we'll know. Adrian looked at the folder again. Photos of a small house on a quiet street, trees in the yard, a porch swing. It looked like something out of a postcard. This is really it, huh? This is the rest of my life. This is the rest of your life, Chen confirmed. Is it what you expected? I don't know what I expected. Probably not this. You gave up everything to protect your kids, Mr. Vale. That takes guts. Most people in your position would have fought back, would have tried to hold on to power. Power didn't matter anymore. Not after I saw what it cost. Chen nodded. For what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. Your kids are going to be okay. They're going to heal. And maybe you will too. Maybe. Adrian wasn't sure he deserved to heal. Wasn't sure he could, after everything he'd done. But he could try. For Max and Lily, he could try. They flew to Oregon the next morning on a private plane. The kids spent most of the flight staring out the windows, watching the country slide by below. When they landed, a nondescript sedan was waiting. The drive to their new home took 2 hours through winding mountain roads. Fall colors blazed on the hillsides, reds and golds and oranges. It was beautiful in a way Chicago never was. Quiet. Peaceful. The house was small but nice. 3 bedrooms, a yard, a garage. Nothing like the penthouse. Nothing like the life they'd had before. Adrian parked in the driveway and looked at his kids. This is it. This is home now. So small, Max said. Yeah, but it's ours, and it's safe. They got out and walked through the house. The furniture was basic. Couches, beds, kitchen table. Nothing fancy, but it was clean and functional and theirs. Lily found her room and immediately claimed the bed by the window. Max took the room next to hers. Adrian's room was at the end of the hall, with a view of the mountains. He stood at the window, looking out at the unfamiliar landscape. Somewhere out there, what was left of his organization was trying to regroup. People he'd once commanded were being arrested or making deals. His empire was collapsing, and he was here, in Oregon. Andrew Miller, accountant. His phone buzzed. A new phone, a new number. Only Chen and a handful of federal agents had it. The text was from an unknown number. This is Marcus. Don't reply. Don't try to contact me. I just wanted you to know. Most of the crew took deals. We're all getting out. Starting over. Like you. I hope you and the kids are okay. I hope you find peace. Thanks for giving us the choice. The message deleted itself after Adrian read it. Burn after reading. Marcus was taking no chances. Adrian set down the phone. Marcus was right about one thing. Having a choice mattered. Adrian had given his people a chance to walk away. Some took it, some didn't, but at least they'd had the option. Over the next few weeks, they settled into their new life. Max and Lily started school. They were nervous at first. scared that everyone would somehow know who they really were. But nobody knew. Nobody cared. They were just the new kids from back east. Adrian started his job at the nonprofit, a community organization that helped at-risk youth. It was exactly as boring as Chen had promised. Paperwork, grant applications, budget reports. Nothing like running a criminal empire. But there were moments. A teenager who reminded him of himself at that age, angry and desperate. A single mother struggling to keep her kid out of gangs. People who needed help. Adrian found he was good at helping, better than he'd expected, maybe because he knew what happened when kids fell through the cracks, when nobody cared enough to intervene. He'd been one of those kids once. Before he'd become Adrian Vale, crime boss, he'd been just another poor kid from Bridgeport with no father and a mother who worked 3 jobs. The streets had raised him. The streets had taught him that power was the only thing that mattered. He'd been wrong. 3 months after they moved to Oregon, on a Saturday morning in January, Adrian woke to find Max and Lily in the kitchen making pancakes. Badly. There was flour everywhere, eggshells in the batter, smoke coming from the pan. "What are you two doing?" "Making breakfast," Lily said proudly. "For you." "Because you always make breakfast for us," Max added. "We wanted to do it for you." Adrian looked at the disaster zone that was his kitchen, at his kids covered in flour, grinning at him, at the smoke alarm that was probably about to go off. And he laughed, really laughed, for the first time and he couldn't remember how long. "Okay, let me help before you burn the house down." They finished the pancakes together. They were terrible, lumpy and burned and slightly crunchy, but they ate them anyway, sitting around the small kitchen table, talking and laughing like a normal family. After breakfast, they went for a hike. There were trails all over the mountains, and the kids had been begging to explore them. They spent the day outdoors, breathing clean air, not looking over their shoulders, not worrying about who might be watching. Just being. That night, after the kids went to bed, Adrian sat on the porch. The stars were out, millions of them. You couldn't see stars like this in Chicago. Too much light pollution. He pulled out the photo he'd kept, Gabrielle, Max, and Lily at Navy Pier. It was worn now, the edges soft from being carried everywhere. "We're okay," he said quietly to the photo, to Gabrielle. "The kids are okay. I know I screwed up. I know I let that woman hurt them. But I fixed it, as much as I could fix it, anyway." The photo didn't answer, but Adrian felt something ease in his chest anyway. Like maybe, somewhere, Gabrielle knew. Maybe she understood. He'd never be able to make up for his past, for the people he'd hurt, the lives he'd destroyed. That debt was too big to ever pay off. But he could do this. He could raise his kids right, keep them safe, help them heal, give them the kind of childhood he'd never had. It wasn't redemption. Adrian wasn't naive enough to think he could be redeemed, but it was something, a start. Spring came to Oregon slowly. The snow melted, the trees budded, wildflowers started popping up along the hiking trails. Max joined a soccer team. Lily made friends at school. They still had nightmares sometimes, still flinched at loud noises, still asked about Veronica, about Chicago, about their old life, but less and less as time went on. One day in April, Adrian came home from work to find Lily sitting at the kitchen table drawing. She'd been doing a lot of that lately. Her therapist said it was healthy, a way to process her feelings. "What are you working on?" Adrian asked. Lily held up the picture. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands, a man and 2 kids. They were standing in front of a small house with mountains behind it. "It's us," Lily said. "Our new family. In our new home." Adrian noticed something. "Where's your mom? You always draw her in your family pictures." "She's still there," Lily said, pointing to a small figure in the sky. "She's watching us, making sure we're okay." "You think she is?" "Yeah, I think she's glad we got away from the bad people. I think she's glad we're safe." Adrian pulled Lily into a hug. She was getting so big, so grown up. In a few years, she'd be a teenager, then an adult. She'd have her own life, her own story. And maybe that story wouldn't be defined by what Veronica did to her. Maybe it would be defined by what came after, by healing, by choosing to be happy despite everything. That night, Adrian got an email from Chen. Subject line, "Update on Veronica Hale." He almost didn't open it, almost deleted it without reading. What did it matter what happened to Veronica? She was in prison. She couldn't hurt them anymore. But curiosity won out. The email was brief. Veronica attempted suicide last night. She was unsuccessful. She's in medical segregation now, under observation. Her appeal was denied. She'll serve out her full sentence. Adrian read it twice, waiting to feel something. Satisfaction, maybe. Relief. Something. But there was nothing. Veronica was a stranger now, a ghost from another life. What she did or didn't do no longer mattered. He deleted the email and went to check on the kids. They were both asleep, Max with a book on his chest, Lily curled around her stuffed rabbit. Peaceful. Safe. This was what mattered. Not revenge, not justice, not closure, just this. His kids sleeping soundly in a home where nobody would hurt them. Summer arrived. School let out. Adrian took 2 weeks off work and drove the kids to the coast. They'd never seen the Pacific Ocean. Max and Lily spent hours running through the surf, collecting shells, building sandcastles that the tide washed away. On their last day there, they sat on the beach watching the sunset. The sky turned orange and pink and purple, colors bleeding together like a painting. "Dad," Max said, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you miss it? Your old life?" Adrian thought about it, honestly thought about it. "Sometimes. I miss the power, the control. I miss feeling like I mattered." "You matter now," Lily said. "I know, baby. I mean, I miss feeling important, like I was someone." "You are someone. You're our dad." And there it was. The simple truth that had taken Adrian 40 years and a destroyed empire to learn. He'd spent his whole life trying to be someone that mattered, trying to build something that would last, that would prove he was more than just another poor kid from Bridgeport. But the only thing that really mattered was sitting right next to him. The only thing that would last was the family he'd almost lost. "You're right," Adrian said. "I am your dad, and that's enough." They watched the sun sink into the ocean, 3 people who'd survived hell and come out the other side. Not unscathed, not unchanged, but alive. Together. A year passed. Then another. The nightmares became less frequent. The therapy helped. The quiet life in Oregon helped more. Max turned 12, then 13. He got taller. His voice started changing. He was good at soccer, better than Adrian had expected. He made friends, went to birthday parties, lived a normal life. Lily turned 10. She still drew, still loved butterflies, still sometimes asked about Gabrielle. But she smiled more, laughed more. The shadow that had hung over her after Veronica was fading. Adrian got promoted at work. They made him director of youth programs. It was still boring paperwork, but now he got to actually work with the kids, to see them turn their lives around, to know he was making a difference. One evening in late summer, 3 years after they'd moved to Oregon, Adrian was grilling burgers in the backyard when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Mr. Miller, this is Agent Chen. I wanted to check in, see how you're doing." "We're good, really good." "I'm glad to hear it. I wanted to let you know your case is officially closed. All charges stemming from your cooperation have been resolved. You're clear." "What about the organization? The people I testified against?" "Most of them are serving time. A few cut deals and relocated like you. It's over, Mr. Miller. You did what you needed to do. Now you can really move on." Move on. Adrian looked at his kids playing catch in the yard, at the house he'd made a home, at the life he'd built from nothing. "I think I already have," he said. Chen was quiet for a moment. "Good. That's good. Take care of yourself, Mr. Miller. Take care of those kids." "I will." He hung up and went back to the grill. The burgers were burning. He flipped them, salvaged what he could, called the kids in to eat. They sat around the patio table talking about their day. Max's soccer practice, Lily's art class, Adrian's work. Normal things, boring things, the best things. After dinner, after the dishes were done and the kids were doing homework, Adrian walked down to the end of his street. There was a spot there where you could see the mountains, purple against the darkening sky. He pulled out his phone and opened the photos. The old photo of Gabrielle was still there, scanned in and saved. He looked at it for a long moment. "I did okay," he said quietly. "Not perfect, but okay. They're happy, Gabrielle. They're safe. And I'm trying. Every day I'm trying to be better than I was. The photo didn't answer. But the weight Adrian had been carrying for 3 years, the guilt, the fear, the anger, it felt lighter somehow. He deleted the photo. Not to forget Gabrielle. He'd never forget her. But because it was time to stop living in the past. Time to focus on the present. On the life he had now. The family he'd fought so hard to keep. Adrian walked back home. Through the window, he could see Max and Lily at the kitchen table, heads bent over their homework. His kids. His responsibility. His reason for everything. He'd been Adrian Vale, crime boss, destroyer of lives. He'd built an empire on blood and fear and power. And he'd thrown it all away for this. For a small house in Oregon and 2 kids who called him Dad. Best trade he'd ever made. Adrian opened the door and stepped inside. Max looked up. Dad, can you help me with this math problem? Sure, buddy, let me see. He sat down at the table between his children, picked up a pencil, and helped with homework. Normal. Boring. Perfect. Outside, the mountains stood silent in the gathering dark. Inside, the kitchen was warm and bright and full of life. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Adrian Vale, Andrew Miller, was home. Really, truly home. The story could have ended there. But life doesn't end with perfect moments. It keeps going. 5 years later, Max was 18 and heading to college. Lily was 15 and already talking about art school. Adrian was 44. With gray in his hair and lines around his eyes he'd earned honestly. The town they'd moved to felt like home now. Adrian knew his neighbors, coached Little League, volunteered at the youth center. Andrew Miller was a fixture in the community. Reliable, boring, exactly what he needed to be. He still thought about Chicago sometimes, about the empire he'd built and destroyed, about James and Veronica and all the people he'd heard over the years. But those thoughts came less frequently now. They had less power. On the day Max left for college, Adrian helped him load boxes into the car. Lily was pretending she wasn't crying. Max was pretending he wasn't nervous. You sure you have everything? Adrian asked for the 10th time. Dad, I'm sure. Stop worrying. I'm your father. Worrying is my job. Max hugged him. Thank you. For everything. For getting us out of Chicago. For giving us this life. You don't have to thank me. Yeah, I do. I know what you gave up. What it cost you. And I just want you to know it was worth it. We're okay because of you. Adrian held his son tight. This young man who'd somehow grown up when he wasn't looking. You're okay because you're strong. Both of you. I just gave you the chance. Max pulled back, wiping his eyes. I'm going to miss you guys. We'll visit, and you'll be home for Thanksgiving. I know, but still. Lily threw her arms around her brother. Don't forget about us when you're off being a college genius. Never. You're stuck with me forever, Squirt. They said their goodbyes. Adrian watched his son drive away, watched the car disappear around the bend. It felt like an ending, like losing something precious. But it wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Max's beginning. The start of his own story, separate from Adrian's, separate from the trauma they'd all survived. That was the real victory. Not that they'd survived, but that they'd learned to live again. Adrian put his arm around Lily. Just you and me now, kid. Don't get any ideas about being an overprotective dad. I've still got 3 years before college. 3 years where I get to embarrass you as much as possible. Oh no. They walked back to the house together laughing. Inside, Adrian made dinner while Lily did homework. The radio played softly. The kitchen smelled like garlic and oregano. Normal. Boring. Beautiful. That night, after Lily went to bed, Adrian sat on the porch with a beer. The stars were out, bright and clear. Somewhere in those stars, he liked to think Gabrielle was watching, proud of what their children had become, proud of how far they'd all come. He raised his beer to the sky. We made it, Gabrielle. All the way through. The stars didn't answer, but Adrian didn't need them to. He knew. They'd survived the worst thing that could happen to a family. They'd been broken, nearly destroyed, but they'd healed. Slowly, painfully, imperfectly. But they'd healed. And that was enough. More than enough. Adrian finished his beer and went inside. Tomorrow he'd wake up, go to work, help troubled kids find better paths. Lily would go to school, come home, draw pictures of mountains and rivers and the life they'd built. They'd keep moving forward, keep choosing healing over bitterness, hope over fear, life over the shadows of their past. That was the real ending. Not revenge, not justice, not any kind of dramatic conclusion. Just the simple, quiet choice to keep living, to keep loving, to keep being a family. In a small town in Oregon, far from Chicago and the empire that once was, Adrian Vale was finally at peace, and Andrew Miller was finally home.